Chapter 3602. It was no exaggeration to say that the Elders' Council was the highest power center of the entire North Island, and the elders who could be listed in the Elders' Council were the highest level of giants in the North Island. The third elder of Soaring Pavilion, who was also Su Lingchong's grandfather, was one of them. Lu Bianren couldn't help but sneer at the thought of the mighty reorganization of the three pavilions 3 years ago. The reorganization of the three pavilions was initiated by the Elders' Council and involved many aspects, including the three pavilions and all the major independent departments. For the weakest Blue Cloud Pavilion, it was a catastrophe. Because of its weakness, although Blue Cloud Pavilion also had people who could enter the Elders' Council, the number of people in the three pavilions had always been the smallest, and correspondingly, the right to speak was also the weakest. During that reorganization, the small power of Blue Cloud Pavilion was almost completely divided up by Soaring Pavilion and Mysterious Pavilion. The most obvious example was independent departments like Welcoming Pavilion and Spirit Jade Hall. As far as the eye could see, there was not a single person from Blue Cloud Pavilion. Not a single one. It was one thing if others were muddle-headed, but for someone like Lu Bianren, who had been longing for the Clear Cloud Pavilion to regain its former glory, that period of reorganization was unforgettable. Even though 3 years had passed since then, the Clear Cloud Pavilion showed no signs of recovering. In fact, it was getting worse with each passing day, becoming weaker and weaker. If the three pavilions were to be reorganized now, it was possible that Blue Cloud Pavilion would directly fall apart. In the face of such an undisguised threat from Su Lingchong, other people without a sense of responsibility might not take it to heart, but for people like Lu Bianren, this threat was simply fatal. In fact, even if the other party directly threatened his personal safety, with Lu Bianren's character, he might not retreat. But this matter concerned the fate of the entire Blue Cloud Pavilion, so he had to be careful. Taking a deep breath, he calmed the raging waves in his heart. Lu Bianren looked at the other party and said slowly, "Young Master Su, it's just changing the mining area for a newcomer. It's just a trivial matter. There's no need to mobilize so many people to frighten people, right?" "Oh, trivial? Looks like Pavilion Master Lu San has been banished to the Repent Cliff for too long and is ignorant and ill-informed. He doesn't even know what's going on outside." Su Lingchong sneered, then said in an awe-inspiring tone, "Lin Yi, the newcomer of your Blue Cloud Pavilion, doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He actually dares to disobey my orders, making me lose face in front of so many people. Do you think I'll let this bastard go? If you dare to change the mind for him, don't blame me for bringing disaster to the entire Blue Cloud Pavilion. Young Master Su, aren't you being a little too overbearing? What's more, a great person shouldn't hold grudges against a lowly person. Why do you, the dignified young Master Su, have to be so angry with a newcomer?" Lu Bianren still wanted to fight for Lin Yi one last time, but he understood in his heart that since Su Lingchong had spoken to this extent, it was already impossible to make Su Lingchong relent. "Domineering? I'm still that domineering. What? You want to bite me? Do you have the guts to do that? Ha ha ha." Su Lingchong laughed in an incomparably insolent manner. Just based on the fact that his grandfather was a member of the Elders' Council, no one in the Clear Cloud Pavilion dared to provoke him. As for Lu Bianren, the infamous good-for-nothing in the Welcoming Pavilion, it was even less likely that he would put him in his eyes. Lu Bianren was so angry that his face turned ashen, but in the end, he could only grit his teeth and endure. Not to mention whether or not he could beat Su Lingchong. Just based on Su Lingchong's sensitive identity, if he really made a move against him, it would give Soaring Sky Pavilion enough of an excuse to denounce him. At that time, it would be an immeasurable disaster for the entire Blue Cloud Pavilion. Letting out a long breath, Lu Bianren knew that there was no meaning in staying here any longer. He would only be inviting humiliation. He could only turn his head and say to Senior Apprentice Brother Bitter, "Things can't be done, let's go." Senior Apprentice Brother Bitter nodded silently. After helplessly sighing, he could only turn around and leave with Lu Bianren. Now that things had developed to this point, Lu Bianren could no longer be blamed for not trying his best. In fact, he had fought for Lin Yi time and time again, and was already taking a big risk. If he were to quarrel with Su Lingchong for the sake of Lin Yi, and ultimately bring disaster to the entire Blue Cloud Pavilion, then he would really become the center of Blue Cloud Pavilion. Heh, young Master Su is indeed mighty and domineering. In front of our young Master Su, this third pavilion master is simply like a stray dog. He doesn't even dare to let out a fart. He's really a complete good-for-nothing. Kong Mingming and the others looked at Lu Bianren and Su Lingchong's dejected backs and couldn't help but burst into laughter. They hurriedly flattered Lu Bianren. Su Lingchong smiled proudly. With his identity and position, scaring Lu Bianren away was simply a small matter that wasn't even worth mentioning. With this kind of trash, he wanted to stand up for Lin Yi. He really didn't know how to write the word death. Young Master Su. These two are? After laughing, Dai Wucheng pointed at Kong Mingming and Zhong Pingliang and asked. When Lu Bianren threatened to find Tong Fei just now, he was still on tenterhooks. But now that Su Lingchong had already come out and scared Lu Bianren away, he naturally had nothing to worry about. This is Kong Mingming and Zhong Pingliang. These two are newcomers from the secular world this year. They are now outer sect disciples of my Soaring Sky Pavilion. They are also my subordinates. Today, I brought them over for you to get to know. Su Lingchong said indifferently. So it's junior brother Kong and junior brother Zhong. Both of you are really talented. No wonder young Master Su appreciates you. Dai Wucheng hurriedly flattered. Although Dai Wucheng wholeheartedly wanted to curry favor with Su Lingchong, because he was born in Blue Cloud Pavilion, a young master like Su Lingchong wouldn't put him in his eyes at all. At most, Su Lingchong would call him when he needed him. In comparison, it was more reliable to curry favor with a newcomer like Kong Mingming. After all, this was equivalent to indirectly hugging onto Su Lingchong's thick thigh. You're too polite. Senior brother Dai too. Please take care of me in the future. Kong Mingming smiled faintly and said politely. As a newcomer who had been taken care of by Su Lingchong recently, he had already started to learn to put on airs. Although he wanted to make friends with people like Dai Wucheng, he couldn't lower his status. He had to maintain a psychological advantage and take the initiative. Only then would he be able to use the other party. At the same time, Zhong Pingliang also took the opportunity to build a relationship with Dai Wucheng. After all, if he wanted to play the role of a spy, he couldn't fall too far behind Kong Mingming. Otherwise, even if the other party made a move, he might not be able to get the specific information. Chapter 3603. Although his main purpose for coming out this time was to see Lin Yi make a fool of himself, since he had promised to help Kong Mingming build connections, he naturally had to introduce a few high-level people to them. As for low-level managers like Dai Wucheng, if he hadn't happened to meet them just now, he wouldn't have bothered to care about them. Then, take care, young Master Su and junior brothers. Dai Wucheng hesitated for a moment, and finally had to send them off respectfully. He originally wanted to remind Su Lingchong not to be happy so early. After all, he knew that Lin Yi dug out 8 pieces of good jade yesterday, which made Meng Jueguang and the others who were ready to see him make a fool of himself. Maybe this young Master Su would repeat the same mistake. But thinking about it, in a dead mining area like 10th, it was already a miracle that he was able to dig up 8 pieces of good jade yesterday. He couldn't possibly be that lucky today, could he? It wasn't like he was the legendary child of fortune. Therefore, in the end, Dai Wucheng held back his words, in case his reminder didn't come true, and deliberately spoiled the mood, leaving a stain in young Master Su's heart. In the blink of an eye, the sky turned dark and the melodious bell rang throughout the major mining areas. It was time to hand over the work. In each mining tunnel, people came out one after another. They were first weighed and then inspected. After going through this never-changing handover process, most people left one after another. After all, they had been mining for a whole day. Even if they could hold on physically, they were still a little tired mentally. Even if they went back to the cave residence to meditate and practice, it would be a rare recovery. However, a group of Blue Cloud Pavilion newcomers, led by Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong, stayed at the quality inspection office like yesterday to see Lin Yi make a fool of himself. Although he was disgraced by Lin Yi's 8 pieces of good jade yesterday, Meng Jueguang absolutely didn't believe that Lin Yi could still have that kind of luck today. Otherwise, it would be too strange. What he didn't expect was that before Lin Yi arrived, Su Lingchong and the others had arrived. He hurriedly went forward to curry favor with him. However, after clarifying the other party's intentions, Especially when asked about yesterday's situation, Meng Jueguang's expression couldn't help but turn strange. He could only force a smile and say, "That brat was lucky yesterday and managed to get a few pieces of good jade." However, there is no such thing as being lucky every day. Today is the day he reveals his true colors. Young Master Su, just wait and enjoy his unfortunate expression. That kid actually dug up a few good jades yesterday? Su Lingchong was surprised, but he didn't take it to heart. After all, even the dead mining area know. Tin would occasionally produce good jade, but it was absolutely impossible to produce good jade every day. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called the dead mining area. The group of people raised their heads and waited for almost an hour. When the others were almost gone, they finally saw Lin Yi's figure on the empty mine number 10. The corners of their mouths immediately curled up into a mocking smile. "Brat, let's see if you can continue to be so proud today." Today's lineup is not small. Could it be that you are all looking forward to me digging up more jade today? When Linny raised his head and saw this group of people, he couldn't help but stare blankly for a moment, especially when he saw familiar faces like Su Lingchong and Kong Ming. After coming to his senses, he couldn't help but laugh in his heart. With so many people rushing to watch him hand over his work, Lin Yi really didn't know whether he should feel honored or sad. Of course, if he wanted to be sad, he should be sad for this group of people. Meng Jueguang and the others were fine. After all, they were originally close to the mining area. However, a big shot, like Su Lingchong, came all the way to see him make a fool of himself. When the time came, he wouldn't be able to make a fool of himself and would instead be snubbed. Wasn't that sad? Pretentious newbie. Today, I dug up 8 pieces of good jade. Let's see if you can still be as lucky as yesterday. But out of humanitarianism, I guess you should still be able to dig up 8 pieces. It's a pity that they are all useless jade. Ha ha ha. Seeing Linny appear, Meng Tong immediately jumped out impatiently. Today, he wanted to properly provoke Lin Yi. Meng Jueguang personally went into action and guided Meng Tong from the side to dig up jade. And Meng Tong also did his best to dig up jade. In the end, the result was even more than yesterday. It was simply the envy of others. Of course, because there were more people in the 7th mining area, Meng Tong wasn't alone. There were also some outer court disciples of Blue Cloud Pavilion who didn't successfully advance to the Heavenly Law Foundation establishment early stage in the previous batch. They no longer had the treatment of cave abodes. They could only rely on the jade that they earned through hard work and slowly cultivate. When they broke through, they could then participate in the inner court disciple trial again to advance to the inner court. Therefore, even with Meng Jueguang's help, Meng Jueguang could only help Meng Tong search for jade in a place where there was no one around. The efficiency wasn't very high either. This made him a little envious of his bitter senior brother. This guy could help Linny search for jade in the entire 10th mining area. Not to mention the other newcomers in the 8th mining area. Even Li Jingming, who was assigned to the same mining area as Meng Tong, was looking at Meng Tong with envy. Meng Tong had only picked up 5 pieces of good jade today. 8 pieces? That's not bad. You're almost catching up to me. But you still have to continue to work hard. Linny purposely raised his eyebrows. As he spoke, he poured the spirit jades in the basket onto the weighing platform. F***CK. You're just lucky once. You're just an unlucky bastard from the 10th mining area. What are you so proud of? Let's see how you cry during the quality inspection later. Meng Tong almost exploded with anger. He had tried his best to beat Lin Yi today, but in the end, Lin Yi didn't even put him in his eyes. Compared to being looked down upon, this kind of nonchalant disregard was even more hateful and infuriating. 45 caddies and 3 tails. No problem. The staff member in charge of weighing reported after checking the account book handed in by the guard. Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief. Just like yesterday, he had secretly hidden 2 pieces of waste jade with insufficient spiritual qi. In fact, with the amount of waste jade he had dug out today, it wasn't impossible to hide 1 more piece. But in that case, all the waste jade he had dug out today would have to be charged into good jade. All of them were good jades full of spiritual qi, but there wasn't a single piece of waste jade. This was a little unscientific. In order to avoid shooting the bird that stuck out, It was better to be more stable. After all, there was still a long way to go. Hearing this number, Su Lingchong, who was waiting to see a joke, couldn't help but slightly change his expression. Although he had never personally mined because of his deep background, he had worked as a steward in the Spirit Jade Hall for a period of time in order to gain some experience. So, he had some concept of these processes. Chapter 3604. Even the 10th mining area couldn't control him. Was this kid who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth really so strange? Che, every time. It's like you're collecting junk. You even put in trash jades, making it look like you've picked up a lot of good jades. Really, mud can't support a wall. You're a disgrace to our clear cloud pavilion. Meng Jueguang saw through Su Lingchong's confusion and promptly explained. So that was it. Only then did Su Lingchong's expression soften a little. With a disdainful smile, he turned to Kong Xiaoming. I say, Kong Shitty, are all the people in the common world this poor? You won't even let go of a few worthless pieces of jade like this? Master Su, although we people in the common world haven't seen much of the world, we're not all trash pickers. But Lin Yi and I are different. Although we're from the common world, we're from the top sections. I'm from the Five Elements sect, and this brother Zhong is from the Everyday and Everyday sect, while that Lin Yi is a complete freelancer. We all despise people like him, who relied on scavenging to get to the heavenly stage island. Kong Xiaoming laughed. His words belittled Lin Yi to the point that he was worthless. Lin Yi was despised on Sky-class Island, and he was despised even when he returned to the common world. That was simply detestable. Oh, so you're from the Five Elements sect? That's a big sect. Our pill god Zhang Liju from Sky-class North Island is a master from your common world's Five Elements sect. I've heard of the Everyday and Everyday sect. It used to be a sect from Middle Island. You're all descendants of famous sects. No wonder you've joined our soaring sky pavilion. It's just right. Su Lingchong understood after hearing that. He was a prideful person, obviously. He respected Zhang Liju from the Five Elements sect, but after hearing about Lin Yi, he couldn't help but laugh. That's true. If you guys were like this guy, I wouldn't have liked you guys back then. This kind of trash that only knows how to pick up trash should be left to Blue Cloud Pavilion. Su Lingchong's words were said in front of everyone. When the Blue Cloud Pavilion rookies heard this, their faces immediately changed. Didn't Su Lingchong's words mean that they were also trash? Although the Clear Cloud Pavilion was the weakest among the three pavilions, and it was true that it had the reputation of being a waste shelter, saying such words in front of so many Clear Cloud Pavilion new disciples was no different than pointing at a monk and scolding a bald donkey. Isn't this young Master Su going a little too far and bullying others? However, Meng Jueguang, the big senior brother who could represent the Blue Cloud Pavilion the most, turned a deaf ear to Su Lingchong's words. He still tried to curry favor with Su Lingchong with a fawning expression. Instantly, the rookies felt a chill in their hearts. It was true that they were grassroots rogue cultivators. The Blue Cloud Pavilion was in a disadvantageous position. They could accept it, but it did not mean that they were willing to suffer such unbridled insults in front of their faces. And because of yesterday's unforeseen event, although they had gathered here today to watch Lin Yi make a fool of himself, they were mostly in a wait-and-see state. They were not on the same side as Meng Jueguang and company. And now, after being provoked by Su Lingchong, especially after seeing Meng Jueguang's face, at this moment, he felt like he was on the same side as Lin Yi. The moment the rookie's mentality changed, the atmosphere suddenly changed. Originally, this circle of people gathered here to watch Lin Yi make a fool of himself. But at this moment, it felt like they were cheering for Lin Yi. Not only did they not wish for Lin Yi to make a fool of himself, they hoped that he would show a bunch of good jade like yesterday, blinding the dog eyes of Su Lingchong and Meng Jueguang. Hee. Looks like this bunch of people aren't hopeless. Lin Yi smiled thoughtfully. He originally thought that this bunch of rookies had been reduced to the same lackeys as Meng Jueguang. But from the looks of it, there was still a last bit of ambition that had not been ground down. Not only Lin Yi, Meng Jueguang also quickly noticed the subtlety of the situation. Seeing the rookies vaguely turning the spearhead towards him, he could not help but complain in his heart. He was someone who wholeheartedly wanted to curry favor with someone of a higher position. To have the opportunity to interact with a young master like Su Lingqiong was a blessing that he had cultivated for 8 lifetimes. He could not give up such a great opportunity just because of a sentence from the other party. But then again, if he wanted to improve in the future, he had to maintain his current position. And to maintain his position as the eldest senior brother, he had to subdue this bunch of rookies. Yesterday was a great opportunity, but it was destroyed by Lin Yi's miraculous dog shit luck. And today was another opportunity, but he never expected to encounter such an awkward dilemma. If he did not refute Su Lingqiong's ridicule, then he, Meng Jueguang, would definitely lose points in front of the rookies. It was a matter of dignity and integrity. This was extremely fatal. Once this image was fixed, it would be even more difficult to subdue them in the future. But if he refuted Su Lingqiong, it would go along with the wishes of the rookies, but the outcome would be even worse. Young Master Su could casually greet Hu Yunfeng, and he, Meng Jueguang, would never be able to make a comeback. Either he offended the rookies, or he offended Su Lingqiong. Suddenly being forced into such a dilemma, Meng Jueguang even had the thought of hacking Lin Yi to death in front of everyone. If it was not because he wanted to see this unlucky guy make a fool of himself, why would he be in such an awkward situation? Now, before he could make a fool of himself, he had become the unlucky guy who was unjustly implicated. However, at this time, Su Lingqiong seemed to have noticed Meng Jueguang's awkwardness. It was true that he did not like Blue Cloud Pavilion, but he was an ambitious and intelligent person. Don't be fooled by his usual arrogance. But he was still very meticulous in his thinking. Since Meng Jueguang intended to rely on him, he would naturally accept it. It would be good if the people of Blue Cloud Pavilion became his underlings. But in order to make his underlings loyal to him, he still had to give them face. So he said faintly, when I said Blue Cloud Pavilion was trash, I was referring to Lin Yi, Xiao Ran, and Xiao Hongkai. Because they followed people with no future, they were destined to be trash. But if they followed me and junior brother Meng Jueguang, then it's different. Even if you are trash, there will be a time for you to counterattack. Because, in the Heaven North Island, if you want to stand out, what do you rely on? You rely on your backing. You are all Heaven stage experts, your qualifications are not bad, and the starting line is the same. What you are competing for is cultivation resources. Following the right person is very important. Otherwise, you can only rely on dog sh*t luck in the future. Su Lingqiong's words immediately made the blood of the Blue Cloud Pavilion disciples boil. That's right, in the Heaven North Island, what was the competition? Wasn't it because of whose backing was stronger? Chapter 3605. Moreover, what was the use of being lucky? Wasn't he still being troubled by Meng Jueguang and the others all day long? If he didn't have good luck, could he be protected by the hardship? Obviously not. As for those who had disloyal thoughts previously, they had also calmed down at this moment. They all recognized the situation clearly. They didn't have Lin Yi's luck. Wouldn't following the hardship be even more miserable than being a hardship? Moreover, Su Lingqiong's words were already very clear. He would be Meng Jueguang's backer. Then, what was there to be afraid of? This was a top-notch backer. Meng Jueguang looked at Su Lingqiong gratefully. Suddenly, he had the feeling of a soldier dying for a bosom friend. Su Lingqiong said that he would protect him. Wouldn't he be more popular in the future? Just thinking about it made him incomparably happy. Following this kind of boss was really awesome. Lin Yi, on the other hand, looked at Su Lingqiong thoughtfully. This young Master Su wasn't an idiot. Although he looked arrogant and despotic, as if he was the world's #1, in fact, his wisdom wasn't weak at all. However, Lin Yi didn't take it to heart. Anyway, these people were his enemies. It was impossible for him to reconcile with them. Let them do whatever they wanted. Therefore, he followed the handover process unhurriedly. After passing the scale, he packed up the spiritual jades and went to the quality inspection department to queue. He didn't seem to be in a hurry at all. Lin Yi had the patience to wait, but Su Lingqiong, who was anxious to see him make a fool of himself, didn't have the patience. After greeting the people, he directly asked Kong Mingming to cut Lin Yi's basket into the quality inspection department. After all, with Su Lingqiong's deep background, the others turned a blind eye to it. They dared to be angry, but didn't dare to say anything. Very soon, the quality inspection results came out. It was still the voice of the mysterious pavilion's senior Tong from yesterday. Lin Yi, 10 good jades, 7 useless jades, 19 trash jades. 10 jades. How is this possible? Meng Tong was so shocked that he almost bit his tongue off. He had only managed to dig up 8 pieces of good jade today, and this was the 7th mining area. But look at Lin Yi from the 10th dead mining area. Not only did he dig up 8 pieces of good jade on the first day yesterday, but today he actually increased it to 10 pieces. It wasn't only Meng Tong, even Su Lingqiong, Meng Jueguang, and the others had expressions as wonderful as if they'd eaten shit at this moment. All of their faces were flushed red, and they looked as if they wanted to vomit but couldn't. Not only did he eat sh*t, but he was also stuffed to death by sh*t. Yesterday, Linny was lucky enough to dig up 8 pieces of good jade, but what about today's 10 pieces? Could it be that this guy was really the son of luck? How could he be so lucky for 2 days in a row? I can't help it. Who asked me to have a good character? When luck comes, it can't be stopped. Linny shrugged helplessly at this group of people. It was simply infuriating. F***ck. Only a few pieces of good jade could be found in the 10th mining area in a year. How could this guy dig up so many good jade in 2 days in a row? I don't F***king believe this. Su Lingqiong was seething with anger at Lin Yi's expression. Flustered and exasperated, he pointed at the quality inspection area and said angrily, "Old man Tong, come out. Take out this pile of useless jade and re-inspect it in front of me." In front of a small steward like Meng Jueguang from the welcoming pavilion, this senior brother Tong from the profound pavilion could still put on airs. But in front of the soaring sky pavilion's young master, Su Lingqiong, it was impossible. Although the profound pavilion had never been on good terms with the soaring sky pavilion, young Master Su was not someone a small fry like him could afford to provoke. When senior brother Tong heard this, he hurriedly responded and put the spirit jades that Linny had dug up back into the basket. Then, he carried them out personally and re-inspected them in front of everyone. 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces. When senior brother Tong finally picked out 10 pieces of good jade and placed them in front of everyone, everyone was dumbfounded once again. Su Lingqiong did not believe it and picked them up one by one to feel them. His originally hazy face completely collapsed. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth was pure and full. The richness of the jade was even greater than the spiritual jades he usually used for cultivation. No matter how picky a person was, they would never say that these spiritual jades were worthless. On the contrary, even among the good jades, these spiritual jades were rare and of high quality. How is it, senior brother Su? I picked up these trash spirit jades from the trash. I don't think I would be able to catch the eye of a big shot like you, would I? Linny crossed his arms and smiled calmly at the side. Su Lingqiong's complexion was ashen, but he was choked to the point that he could not speak for a long time. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, he could not possibly lie. If he really braced himself and said that these spirit jades were all useless jade, then where was the spirit jade hall? Even if he, this young master, had a strong backing in front of such an obvious matter, these people from the Spirit Jade Hall would not dare to follow him and speak nonsense. Originally, young Master Su's mood was pretty good today, especially after he scared away Lu Bianren, who wanted to change the mining area for Lin Yi. It gave him a pleasant feeling that everything was under his control. Although he could not personally take action to teach Lin Yi a lesson for the time being, to be able to crush the other party to death in the 10th dead mining area was also a delightful matter. In the end, he did not expect that he would encounter such a thing in the blink of an eye. He had obviously been crushed to death in the 10th dead mining area. If it was someone else, they would not be able to make a fuss. But in the end, this Linny had dug out so many good jades in the dead mining area. And this was not the first day, this was already the 2nd day in a row. Su Lingqiong's current mood was as if he was filled with joy and mentally prepared to eat the Manchu Han imperial feast. In the end, when the dishes were served, when the lid was lifted, it was pig swill that had gone bad for half a month, and there was even a swarm of green-headed flies buzzing around it. Not to mention this, The problem was that he actually had to pinch his nose and drink this pot of swill. Su Lingcheng's face turned green. Kong Mingming's face also turned green. One must know that compared to Su Lingcheng, he was the real archenemy of Lin Yi with a deep hatred. If one were to say who wanted Lin Yi to be unlucky the most, he would absolutely be ranked first. However, the more urgent this feeling was, the more swill he drank at this time. That kind of feeling could only be described with 4 words: wanting to cry but having no tears. And to say that among Su Lingcheng's group at this time, the only one who was in a good mood was Zhong Pingliang. If it wasn't for his identity as a spy, this guy might even be unable to restrain himself from cheering loudly. Boss Lin Yi was Boss Lin Yi after all. It looked like he couldn't move at all, but he'd given everyone a huge gift without a sound. That was a slap to the face. It felt so good. Chapter 3606. As Lin Yi spoke, he turned around and left, leaving Su Lingcheng and the others to look at each other in dismay. Their faces were all uglier than the other. He even invited people to come and watch. He didn't mind losing face. This bastard was 2F** king infuriating. It was truly intolerable. Even if they could tolerate it, they couldn't tolerate it. To prevent himself from making a fool of himself, Meng Jueguang waved his hand, indicating for the other newcomers to disperse. Then, he carefully looked at Su Lingcheng, who had an ugly expression on his face. Meng Jueguang, as the newcomer manager of Blue Cloud Pavilion, are you just going to watch him be so arrogant? If you don't have the ability, then don't waste your food in this position. I believe that there are people who are willing to stand up and deal with Lin Yi. Su Lingcheng looked angrily at Meng Jueguang. Originally, when he heard that Meng Jueguang had kicked Lin Yi to the 10th dead mining area, he thought that he was a talent. But from the looks of it, he was clearly a useless idiot. Seeing that Su Lingcheng had turned the spearhead to him in anger, Meng Jueguang instantly threw all his worries to the back of his mind. He was so anxious that his forehead was covered in sweat. He was only a low-level manager. How could he withstand young Master Su's anger? Furthermore, Meng Jueguang had just been accepted by Su Lingcheng. If he didn't handle it well, then it would be strange if Su Lingcheng would bother with him in the future. Luckily, Meng Jueguang still had the quick-wittedness of a small fry. He rolled his eyes and said, "Young Master Su, don't be anxious. For this Lin Yi to be able to dig out so much good jade in the dead mining area for 2 consecutive days, I think there must be something fishy about it. It's very possible that he found a high quality or spot." Su Lingcheng nodded thoughtfully. This analysis made sense. Even if it was the dead mining area number 10, it was only a man-made area. In essence, it was still connected to other high-quality mining areas. Although the jade production rate was very low in the past, it did not mean that there was no good jade. If Lin Yi really found a high-quality mining area by luck, it would not be surprising at all if he dug out good jade in the dead mining area for a few days. Seeing Su Lingcheng's approval, Meng Jueguang's spirit was lifted, and he continued to suggest, "So, I think we can transfer him to another mining area for a few days. After we figure out the details of the jade produced in the number 10 mining area, it won't be too late to deal with him. What do you think, young Master Su?" "This is not impossible." Su Lingcheng pinched his chin and said. Although Su Lingcheng wholeheartedly wanted to deal with Lin Yi, due to his identity, he could not directly make a move on Lin Yi. Moreover, with his level, even if he wanted to deal with Lin Yi, the method could not be too simple and crude. Otherwise, even if he ended up trapping Lin Yi in the end, he would become the laughing stock of the other young masters and ladies when the news spread. So, since he wanted to deal with Lin Yi, he had to make it so that no one could find fault with it. Although this suggestion of Meng Jueguang would take some time, Su Lingcheng still had the patience to wait for a few days. But he, Su Lingcheng, still had the patience to wait for a few days. "Fine, I'll leave this matter to you. If you do well, I'll ask Hu Yunfeng to reward you. But if you mess it up, you'll have to deal with it yourself." Su Lingcheng glanced at Meng Jueguang and said, before he could think of a better idea, letting a new manager like Meng Jueguang deal with Lin Yi wasn't a bad move. Meng Jueguang hurriedly patted his chest and guaranteed, "Young Master Su, don't worry. I promise I won't let that brat Lin Yi have it easy." Since that brat is blind enough to provoke our young Master Su, I don't dare to say anything else, but it's more than enough to take care of a lowly person from the secular world. Just wait to suffer in the future. Good. The haze on Su Lingchong's face finally dissipated. He paused for a while and said, "Oh, right. Earlier today, that Lu Bianren from your welcome pavilion wanted to change the mining area for Lin Yi. I met him and taught him a lesson. Just now, I saw that those useless newcomers from Blue Cloud Pavilion were not too convinced by you. If you change the mining area for Lin Yi, you can use this matter to make a fuss." Hearing this, Meng Jueguang's eyes immediately lit up. He hurriedly thanked Su Lingchong and said, "Thank you, young Master Su, for your guidance. Young Master Su is indeed as observant and wise as the rumors say. The leading figure of the new generation of the three great pavilions is indeed worthy of his reputation." "Heh, what leading figure of the new generation? You sure know how to talk." Hearing this, Su Lingchong couldn't help but be in a good mood. Although he had a strong background and was a famous young master in the three great pavilions, it was too much to say that he was a leading figure of the new generation. Although there were very few youngsters who had a stronger background and were stronger than him, there were still some. However, Meng Jueguang's flattery was not wrong. This young Master Su really liked to hear this. Meng Jueguang let out a sigh of relief as he watched Su Lingchong lead Kong Xiaoming and Kong Xiaoming away. Even in his dreams, he wanted to curry favor with Master Su Lingchong, but when he was face to face with him, the pressure was as heavy as a mountain. Luckily, he was quick-witted enough to flatter Su Lingchong. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy to fool Master Su. "Ninth cousin brother, what did young Master Su mean just now? What is he trying to do?" After Su Lingchong and the others walked far away, Meng Tong turned his head and asked Meng Jueguang in confusion. In front of a young master like Su Lingchong, even Meng Jueguang was scared witless. As a new disciple who was at the lower level, he didn't even dare to breathe too loudly. Meng Jueguang looked at him, then looked at Li Jingming, who also had a blank expression. He couldn't help but hold his forehead speechlessly and said, "Rotten wood can't be carved. Are your brains filled with paste? You can't even understand such an obvious thing. You're really stupid." After a pause, seeing that the two still didn't understand, Meng Jueguang had to patiently explain. Young Master Su just said that Lu Bianren, the third pavilion head, wanted to change the mining area for Lin Yi, but he didn't because of young Master Su. "If I change Lin Yi to the 7th mining area, what do you think the others will do?" Meng Tong finally reacted and clapped his hands excitedly. What's more, even the third pavilion head of the Welcome Pavilion couldn't do it, but our 9th cousin brother did it. Isn't this a big deal? Li Jingming also rushed to say. Not only that, Linny provoked eldest senior brother again and again, but eldest senior brother could still let go of the past and change the mining area for him to the 7th mining area. This is simply returning good for evil. Chapter 3607. Meng Tong and Li Jingming finally understood. It turned out that Meng Jueguang's final goal was to take the opportunity to establish his prestige in front of this group of Blue Cloud Pavilion newcomers. As expected of the experienced eldest senior brother steward, this was the true far-sightedness of the people. Then, 9th cousin brother, what should we do next? Go directly to Dai Wuchang to exchange the mining area for Lin Yi? Meng Tong scratched his head and asked. No, go to Lin Yi. Meng Jueguang shook his head and said, exchanging mining areas can be a big or small matter. With young Master Su at the top, there won't be any problems with Spirit Jade Hall. But if Linny himself doesn't agree and refuses to sign the contract no matter what, it will be useless. Exchanging him to the 7th mining area and he still won't agree? Linny won't be so stupid, right? Meng Tong had a surprised look on his face. For any normal person, to be able to change from the 10th to the 7th dead mining area was simply a blessing that could not be cultivated for several lifetimes. How could there be any reason to refuse? As a result, Meng Jueguang looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. Not so stupid? If he really agreed easily, then he would be stupid. If it was you, you can dig 8 or 10 pieces of good jade in the 10th mining area every day. If someone wants to exchange you to the 7th mining area, You can only dig 6 or 7 pieces of good jade a day. Will you do it? Meng Tong was suddenly speechless. It seemed that wanting Lin Yi to agree to exchanging mining areas was really not an easy thing. So he said weakly, if he refuses, what should we do? Of course, we will lure him. I will tell you in detail at that time. Meng Jueguang glanced at Li Jingming and said, although Li Jingming was the first newcomer besides Meng Tong to approach Meng Jueguang, his degree of trust was far less than that of Meng Tong. Firstly, Li Jingming was not like Meng Tong, who had a natural and reliable relationship with Meng Jueguang. Secondly, Li Jingming was a bit scheming. Although Meng Tong, this brainless idiot, usually did things unreliable, from the perspective of Meng Jueguang, he preferred this kind of simple-minded idiot, because this kind of person would not have ideas that should not have. If it was Li Zhengming, it was not certain. On the other side, after Lin Yi returned to the cave residence, he unexpectedly saw 2 people at the stone table in front of the newcomer's cave residence. One was senior brother Bitter. As for the other, although he did not look middle-aged, his temperament revealed a profound understanding of the vicissitudes of the world. It could be seen that his age and experience should not be shallow, but he had never seen them in the welcome pavilion, sitting upright on the stone chair. That person was like an old monk in meditation, but senior brother Bitter had to stand up from time to time to look around. Looking at this posture, it seemed that the 2 of them had been waiting for a long time. Seeing Lin Yi's figure, senior brother Bitter hurriedly stood up and waved from afar. Junior brother Lin, over here. Senior brother Bitter, are you looking for me? Lin Yi responded and walked forward with a surprised expression. At the same time, he secretly sized up the person sitting upright on the stone chair. That's right. Come, junior brother Lin. Let me introduce you. This is our Welcome Pavilion's Pavilion Master Lu. He is also a senior brother from our Blue Cloud Pavilion. Senior brother Bitter hurriedly introduced to Lin Yi. This is the legendary 3rd Pavilion Master? Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. He cupped his hands and greeted. Greetings, Pavilion Master Lu. Don't call me Pavilion Master, just call me senior brother. Lu Bianren waved his hand dismissively as he looked at Lin Yi from head to toe. Suddenly, a smile appeared on his face as he said, just as junior brother Ku said, junior brother Lin is not someone to be trifled with. To be able to recruit a new disciple like junior brother Lin, it is our Clear Cloud Pavilion's fortune. You flatter me, senior brother Lu. Lin Yi hurriedly waved his hand. Although he had absolute confidence in himself, he still felt a little embarrassed to be praised like this. After all, no matter how powerful he was in the secular world, he was still a newcomer here. There were many people who were stronger than him. I'm not just saying this to get close to you. Junior brother Lin, you should have heard of my current situation in the Welcome Pavilion. I have nothing to do all day, so I can only look through ancient scriptures to comfort myself. However, I have learned a little about the art of observing people. Whether it is appearance or temperament, junior brother Lin, you are not an ordinary person. Lu Bianren laughed. Hearing this, Lin Yi couldn't help but look up to this depressed 3rd Pavilion Master. It wasn't because of the praise, but because he admired his calmness and open-mindedness in the face of this awkward situation. If it was someone else in Lu Bianren's position, they would more or less have to maintain their high and mighty Pavilion Master image in front of a newcomer like Lin Yi. At the very least, they would try to cover it up. However, Lu Bianren was not only able to face it calmly, but even had the ability to laugh at himself. After exchanging a few pleasantries, they got down to business. The reason why the 2 of them were waiting for Lin Yi was actually Lu Bianren's idea. Firstly, he wanted to see this amazing newcomer from the mortal world that his bitter senior brother spoke of. Secondly, they felt that it was necessary to find an opportunity to appease Lin Yi because they didn't have a good start today. Otherwise, if Lin Yi really gave up on himself because he was wasted in mine number 10 for 3 months, then it would truly be a pity. After listening to senior brother Ku narrate the situation of the 2 of them encountering Su Lingchong during the day, besides being surprised, Lin Yi was also rather moved in his heart. In order to find a way to change the mind for him, this bitter senior brother Ku could be said to be a sincere and honest person. Lu Bianren, the 3rd Pavilion Master, was also very kind. With his current situation, Leaving the Repent Cliff to run around for him was not a small risk. If Great Pavilion Master Hu Yunfeng were to find out about this, he would be charged with negligence of duty. To Lu Bianren, this was tantamount to adding snow to snow. Junior brother Lin, although Su Lingchong's threat may not come true, for the sake of our Blue Cloud Pavilion, I can't take this risk for you alone. As a senior brother, I am very ashamed, but I still hope that you can understand. Lu Bianren explained sincerely. Senior brother Ku Bai also had an ashamed expression on his face, deeply hating that he was powerless. Senior brother Lu, you're exaggerating. Going to mine number 10 is my own choice. If you bring disaster to Blue Cloud Pavilion just to change the mine for me, then I will really feel uneasy. Lin Yi hurriedly waved his hand. Chapter 3608. Thank you, senior brothers, for your kindness. I can't thank you enough, but... Lin Yi thought for a while and decided to tell them what had happened in the past few days. They would find out sooner or later anyway, so they wouldn't worry about him anymore. Senior brothers, you probably don't know this, but even though I was assigned to the number 10 dead mine, I still dug up a lot of good jade these 2 days. In the long run, it shouldn't be a problem to dig up 8 to 10 pieces a day, so it's not a waste of time. What? You dug up 8 to 10 pieces a day? Lu Bianren and senior brother Ku Bai were shocked and looked at each other in disbelief. Both of them had explored the number 10 mine before, so they knew exactly what it was like inside. Good jade was an extravagant dream, and it would be lucky if they could dig up 10 to 20 pieces of waste jade a day. Therefore, in order to avoid provoking Lin Yi, senior brother Ku Bai didn't even dare to ask him about the situation for the past 2 days. He was afraid that he wouldn't dig up a piece of good jade in 2 days, which would cause both of them to feel awkward. Hee, although I'm also very surprised, maybe the mine that senior brother Ku Bai found for me is a rare high-quality mine that can produce a lot of good jade, so you two don't have to worry about me anymore, Lin Yi said with a smile. Of course, he wouldn't tell them his trump card. Saying that it was a high-quality mine was enough reason. Presumably, Meng Jueguang and the others also thought so. Really? Although there are a lot of waste jade in that mine that looks good, I haven't seen many pieces of good jade. Senior brother Ku Bai was confused. The mine that he found for Lin Yi was indeed a rare high-yield mine in the number 10 dead mine, but it was too exaggerated that it could produce 8 to 10 pieces of good jade a day. He had helped Lin Yi dig up a few pieces before, but he had never encountered such a good thing. Maybe senior brother Ku Bai didn't dig deep enough, and now I've gotten a bargain. Lin Yi had to lie. That's possible. Maybe this mine of yours is hidden quite deep, and it's connected to the other high-quality mines. Lu Bianren nodded and immediately let out a sigh of relief. In any case, if you can keep digging out good jade, then these 3 months won't be a waste. This is great news. The bitter senior martial brother also said excitedly, if you can dig out 8 or 10 pieces a day, then junior martial brother Lin, you should be able to earn 7 or 8 pieces of spiritual jades in 3 months. It will be very beneficial for your future cultivation. 7 or 8 pieces of spiritual jades. My goal is $140. Based on 2 yuan a day, it would be at least 140 yuan in 3 months. Lin Yi snickered in his heart, but he still nodded repeatedly on the surface. In fact, for a newcomer, 7 or 8 pieces of spirit jades was not a small amount. Since junior brother Lin is doing well, then we can rest assured. If there's anything you need in the future, feel free to ask junior brother Ku. You can also find me at the Repent Cliff. It was getting late. We'll take our leave first, Lu Bianren said, and left with the bitter senior martial brother. After sending the 2 off, Lin Yi was about to turn around and return to his cave abode when he saw 2 people walking towards him from afar. They even waved at him. It was Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong. Lin Yi couldn't help but be amused. What day was it today? Why did everyone come to look for him? Although he didn't like the 2 of them, Meng Jueguang was still the eldest senior martial brother in charge. Lin Yi couldn't ignore them, so he stopped and waited for the 2 of them. Senior martial brother Meng, what instructions do you have for me? As they approached, Meng Jueguang asked Meng Tong to chase the newcomers who stuck their heads out to look back into the cave abode. He led Lin Yi to a secluded corner and said, Junior brother Lin Yi, there's a misunderstanding between us, And that's why I lost my temper earlier. That's why I assigned you to the number 10 dead mining area. I admit that I've been unkind in this matter. But now I understand that there isn't any deep hatred between us. You're a newcomer to Blue Cloud Pavilion, and I'm a senior steward of Blue Cloud Pavilion. There's no reason for us to make our relationship so tense, am I right? What kind of thinking was that? Was Meng Juiguang insane? Was this a sign of reconciliation? However, Lin Yi did not believe that he would be so kind. So when he heard this, Lin Yi nodded non-committally, but in his heart, he was thinking, what kind of play is this eldest senior martial brother playing? With Meng Juiguang's usual tough and overbearing style of handling things, there was no reason for him to take the initiative to say these things. Lin Yi did not think that this guy would sincerely want to reconcile with him, unless the sun rose from the west. There must be something fishy about this matter. Seeing Lin Yi's expression, Meng Juiguang laughed and said, I know that junior martial brother Lin Yi doesn't believe me, but it's okay. To judge whether my words are sincere, you can just watch my next action. To express my apology and sincerity, I've decided to change you to the number 7 mine. What do you think? Change me to the number 7 mine? Lin Yi suddenly understood. It turned out that this was the main point. How was this guy here to reconcile? It was obvious that he saw that Lin Yi had dug out 8 or 10 pieces of good jade in 2 days, so he couldn't sit still. That's right, junior martial brother Lin Yi. You've also stayed in the number 10 mine for 2 days. You should be clear about the situation inside. Don't think that you're lucky and dug out a few pieces of good jade in the past 2 days. In the long run, you can't have such good luck every day, right? In terms of jade yield, although the number 7 mine is not a good mine, it's much better than the number 10 mine. Meng Juiguang persuaded earnestly. Maybe my luck is always this good? Lin Yi raised his eyebrows and looked at him. He smiled faintly and asked, You've heard, right? They all said that I was lucky to rush to the heavenly island from a rogue cultivator. Humph, a moment of luck is understandable. But have you ever seen anyone who is lucky all the time? After so many years, I guess your luck is almost used up. Meng Juiguang's face immediately turned cold. He curled his lips and said, You know Pavilion Master Lu and Junior Martial Brother Ku, right? In the past, both of them were extremely lucky, receiving the favor of one of our Clear Cloud Pavilion's Vice Pavilion Lords. Not only were they given a lot of good cultivation resources, they were even promoted. But now, their backer, this Deputy Pavilion Master, went to carry out a mission. His life or death is unknown. There's no news about him. So, their luck has come to an end. That's why people can't believe in luck too much. By the way, speaking of these two people, I saw Pavilion Master Lu and Junior Martial Brother Ku when I came here. You should know that these two people wanted to find Dai Wuchang to help you change the mind during the day. In the end, they didn't because of young Master Su, right? Chapter 3609. Meng Juiguang sneered. Then you should understand your current situation, right? Exchanging mining areas can be a big or small matter. It's not something that can be done by just anyone. It requires a strong network. To tell you the truth, I, Meng Juiguang, can definitely do what those two people can't do. This is the only chance. If you miss this chance, you won't get it again. Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. It was obvious that this guy couldn't wait to move him out, but he still put on a posture of doing him a favor. Sure enough, a cheap person had a cheap trick. He immediately shook his head and said, Although the 7th mining area is better, I can not only dig up good jade in the 10th mining area, but there are also fewer people there. I like this kind of secluded place, so I appreciate Big Senior Brother's kindness, but I can't do it. He had now figured out the trick of stealing spiritual jades in the 10th mining area. If it was changed to the 7th mining area, which was more closely monitored, although it was easier to dig up spiritual jades, at least he would have to explore the environment again. It was still uncertain whether he could continue to steal spiritual jades as smoothly as he did now. This kind of stupid thing like losing a watermelon and picking up a sesame seed was not something that Lin Yi would do. Moreover, there were more good jades in the 7th mining area and less useless jades, so it would be even more difficult to operate. It seems that junior brother Lin Yi still doesn't believe me. Meng Juiguang shook his head, pretending to be sad. In fact, he had already expected that Lin Yi would not agree. In fact, even if he was in Lin Yi's position, he would not agree so easily, unless he saw enough benefits. After saying this, Lin Yi thought that the other party would give up. Unexpectedly, not only did Meng Jueguang not leave in a huff, but he also gave Meng Tong, who was guarding at the side, a look. Meng Tong understood and came over with a black bag. From the beginning, Lin Yi had already noticed this bag, but he didn't know what it was for. He didn't expect that the things in the bag were actually prepared for him. It doesn't matter if you don't believe me, but after seeing these things in the bag, I think junior brother Lin Yi won't doubt my sincerity anymore. Meng Jueguang laughed and took the bag from Meng Tong's hand. He deliberately opened the bag and waved it in front of Lin Yi's eyes. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes. Although the sky was already dark, he could clearly see the contents of the bag with the help of the moonlight. It was pure white and filled to the brim with spiritual jades. Roughly estimating, there were at least 15 pieces of spirit jades in the bag. What is the meaning of this, eldest senior brother? Lin Yi narrowed his eyes and looked at Meng Jueguang playfully. If it was just to get him to agree to the change of mind, but to use so many spiritual jades without hesitation, this was a little too extravagant. If Lin Yi had given Meng Jueguang a gift in order to be transferred from the 10th to the 7th mining area, although he wouldn't have given so many spiritual jades, it was still logical. However, the current situation was exactly the opposite. Not only did Meng Jueguang take the initiative to ask for Lin Yi to change to the 7th mining area, but he was also willing to spend so much money. Moreover, he didn't even hesitate to put out such a large sum of money. This matter just didn't make sense. There are 16 pieces of spiritual jades in this bag. As long as you agree to the change of mind, these are all yours. What do you think? Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with sincerity and expectation. In fact, if it wasn't Lin Yi, but any other newcomer, they would definitely be tempted by so many spiritual jades. In the face of so many spirit jades, one would definitely be tempted. In fact, it would be normal for one to lose their composure on the spot. As the saying goes, money moves people's hearts. In the secular world, ordinary people would sell everything for money. But for cultivators like them, the temptation of spiritual jades was even greater. Moreover, in the eyes of ordinary people, changing from the 10th mining area to the 7th mining area was a good thing. Under such circumstances, if Lin Yi still didn't agree, then there must be something wrong with his brain. However, what made Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong disappointed was that Lin Yi didn't have any obvious reaction after seeing so many spiritual jades. He didn't even look at them for a second. There was no sign of reluctance. Could it be that this guy saw something fishy about the spiritual jades? Meng Jueguang's heart skipped a beat as he tried to tempt Lin Yi. Junior brother Lin, think about it, even if you could dig 10 pieces of jade a day in the 10th mine, you'd only be able to earn 3 pieces of spirit jade a month at most. 16 pieces of spirit jade would be equivalent to half a year's worth of your mining income. For newcomers like you, the half a year saved is very precious. I don't think I need to be long-winded, right? Ninth cousin brother, since he doesn't even want the spiritual jades that are delivered to him, why don't you give me all these spiritual jades? Why don't you give me all these spirit jades and transfer me to the 10th mine as well? I'll do nothing and keep an eye on him every day. I want to see how this guy excavates such good jades. Meng Tong chimed in from the side. Meng Jueguang had already taught him this set of words before. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had the brains to do it alone. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. Putting everything else aside, Meng Tong's words had hit his Achilles heel. If this guy really did what he said and came to the 10th mine to keep an eye on him, then things would be troublesome. Meng Tong checked the spiritual jades one by one. How did Lin Yi do it? Lin Yi's heart raced, but he could only pretend to be moved. Then he said hesitantly, 16 spiritual jades is a big deal. Senior brother, you're not just doing this for me, right? I don't think there's such a good thing. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Lin Yi's reaction was the most normal reaction of a calm and rational person. If Lin Yi couldn't wait to agree, then it would be abnormal. Junior brother Lin Yi is indeed the best among the newcomers. You're really cautious. Meng Jueguang laughed and said, You're right. I'm giving you these 16 spiritual jades for another thing besides making you agree to the mining area. But don't worry, it's just a small matter. I won't make things difficult for you. What is it? Linny asked. I remember that when I gave you the spiritual jades a few days ago, you got the smallest piece. It should be the size of an egg. I wonder if Junior Linny has used it these days? Meng Jueguang stared at Lin Yi and said, Not yet. Why? Linny couldn't help but be moved. How did this guy get his eyes on this spiritual jade? Was there something special about it? Chapter 36:10. Putting aside the matter of exchanging minds, anyone with a normal IQ would know how to choose 16 pieces of spiritual jades for one small spiritual jade. Meng Jueguang thought that he had finally achieved his goal. However, what Linny said next almost made him spit out a mouthful of blood. Not exchanging? F***CK. Still not exchanging? Are you F***king crazy? Before Meng Jueguang could speak, Meng Tong had already jumped to his feet. 16 pieces of spiritual jades for one small spiritual jade, and he was still hesitating. This Linny was simply crazy. Shut up. Meng Jueguang glared at him fiercely. Then, he turned to Linny and said, Why don't you want to exchange? Don't tell me that Junior Lin he doesn't trust me? Linny looked at him playfully and said lightly, 16 pieces of spiritual jades for one small spiritual jade. Even a fool can see that there is something wrong with it. So, why should I exchange? Perhaps this small spiritual jade of mine is special and its value is far more than 16 pieces? Hey, I took care of you and gave you benefits. Not only did you not appreciate it, but you also think that you are a rare commodity? After Meng Jueguang reacted, he immediately burst into laughter and said disdainfully, Don't indulge in fantasy, kid. Apart from the small size of your small spiritual jade, there is nothing special about it. If it wasn't for me taking care of you, your small spiritual jade would at most be worth half a piece of spiritual jade. You want it to be more than 16 pieces? What a fool's dream. Since there is nothing special about it, why do you still want to exchange so many spiritual jades with me? Could it be that your spiritual jades are worthless? Linny asked in reply. In fact, in the few days that he had obtained the small spiritual jade, apart from its size, there was nothing different about it from other spiritual jades. However, if someone said that there was nothing fishy about it, Lin Yi would definitely not believe it. You can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. Meng Jueguang's complexion suddenly changed, and he said righteously, Heaven Stage Island strictly forbids the trade of scrap jade in the market. Not to mention that junior apprentice brother Lin Yi has already mined for 2 days, so you should know the situation of Spirit Jade Hall. Waste jades have always been piled up in the mine to continue to absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Not a single piece is allowed to be released. How could I possibly have so many waste jades in my hands? Linny looked at him non-committally. Although what Meng Jueguang said was not a lie, it was not entirely true. At most, it could only be used to deceive newcomers. It was true that Heaven Stage Island forbade trading with scrap jade, but it was the same as counterfeit money in the secular world. It could be banned on the surface, but it was impossible to completely stop the transactions in private. Of course, for cultivators, it was very easy to distinguish good jade and waste jade. Therefore, the success rate of using waste jade to pass off as pearls was not high. Therefore, under normal circumstances, people would consume all the spiritual energy in the spiritual jade and would not deliberately waste spiritual energy to leave behind waste jade. Therefore, for the vast majority of people, it was normal to have 1 or 2 pieces of waste jade that had not been used up, but it was very rare to have accumulated as many as 16 pieces. It was just that it was not very possible for others, but for Meng Jueguang, who deliberately wanted to cheat Lin Yi, it was not impossible. Moreover, he had a wide network in Spirit Jade Hall. It was not difficult to get a few pieces of waste jade. Afraid that Lin Yi would continue to ask questions and expose himself, Meng Jueguang quickly dispelled his doubts and said, Forget it, lest you be suspicious. I'll tell you the truth. The reason why I spent so much money to exchange for your little spiritual jade, in addition to you agreeing to exchange the mine, is mainly because I was entrusted by someone to use your spiritual jade to make a jade carving. Jade carving? Lin Yi was stunned. This kind of thing was very common in the secular world. However, although the spiritual jade was also of excellent quality, because it was filled with the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, its quality was rather hard. Using it to make a jade carving should not be easy. Yes, you also know that spiritual jade full of spiritual energy is very hard, and it is very difficult to cut it. However, if the spiritual energy inside is consumed, the quality of the jade will decline. Therefore, if you want to use spiritual jade to make a jade carving, you must use primitive spiritual jade of similar size. In the jade mine, these spirit jades all have their own meridians. Every time you mine a piece, its size is determined according to its original broken meridians. You can't smash it as big as you want. Therefore, small jades are more suitable for carving. Even an expert at the peak of the late stage of foundation establishment would find it difficult to completely cut a large one. Meng Jueguang glanced at Lin Yi and continued, after a while, it will be the birthday of the only granddaughter of Soaring Sky Pavilion Master. Our Blue Cloud Pavilion Elder Zhao's grandson, Zhao Yu, wants to find someone to carve a personal jade rabbit as a birthday gift. Therefore, he has been looking for people to collect spiritual jades the size of eggs. Now he has come to me. I thought that you happened to have such a small spiritual jade, so I wanted to exchange with you. Now you know the cause and effect. Lin Yi nodded slightly. This explanation did not seem to be empty talk. After all, apart from the small size of his spiritual jade, there was nothing special about it. Apart from using it to make jade carvings, it did not have much use. However, from another point of view, Xiao Hongkai and Xiao Ran's jades were not big either. Wouldn't it be easier for him to threaten them? Why did he need to find a troublemaker like him? Therefore, Lin Yi still did not believe him. Seeing this, Meng Jueguang quickly struck while the iron was hot and said, this kind of small spiritual jade is actually useless in the hand, and although this size is rare, as long as you go out and ask around, you will be able to find it. Senior brother, I spent so much money to buy this piece of yours. This is completely taking care of you. Again, if you miss this opportunity, there will be no shop like this again. If you are not willing, I will turn around and find someone else, without a second word. Lin Yi pondered for a moment, then said, you want to exchange this spiritual jade of mine? Yes, I want 30 pieces. Meng Jueguang listened to the first half of the sentence with some joy, but after hearing the second half, he was immediately shocked and angry. Beside him, Meng Tong could not help but jump and said, F***CK, you bastard. You are raising the price. Meng Jueguang hesitated for a moment, then said, 17 pieces, no more. Lin Yi, you have to think carefully. You are not the only one who has a spiritual jade. Don't go too far. 28. Lin Yi said faintly, 18 pieces. If it was any other time, Meng Jueguang would not have fallen out with him, but at least he would have left in a huff. However, seeing that his plan was about to succeed, he could not bear to waste all his previous efforts, so he gritted his teeth and continued to increase the price. 26 pieces. Lin Yi continued to say with a straight face, and looking at his posture, he seemed to be very interested in continuing to waste time. Chapter 36:11. He hesitated for a moment, then threw the spiritual jades into the black bag with 16 pieces of spiritual jades, placed it on the stone table beside him, and pushed it towards Lin Yi, saying, 20 pieces, not a single piece more. Either you nod your head and make a deal, or forget it. Do as you see fit. Then forget it. Lin Yi looked at the other party with a playful look, then turned his head and walked away. Anyway, even if he did not make a deal, there was no loss for him. In the future, he could continue to mine in the 10th mining area, keep the spiritual jades, and live as usual. Even if Meng Jueguang asked Meng Tong to monitor him, it would only be for a while. To monitor him for 3 months, Meng Tong would have to stop cultivating and also forget about the spiritual jades. He was willing, but Meng Tong himself was not. Damn, this was a full 20 pieces of spiritual jades, and he just said he did not want it. This guy was really a free and easy bachelor. Meng Jueguang and Ming Tong were both stunned. When Lin Yi was about to walk back to the cave residence, Meng Jueguang suddenly reacted, and with a helpless expression, he shouted, 25 pieces. Lin Yi smiled slightly, stopped and turned back. Deal? Seeing Meng Jueguang take out another 5 pieces of spiritual jades from his sleeve and put them in the bag, Lin Yi then took out his own small spiritual jade. However, when it was time to make the exchange, Meng Jueguang suddenly took back the bag of spiritual jades and placed a piece of paper on the stone table. He pouted at Lin Yi and said, "Since it's a deal, then sign it first." Lin Yi glanced at it. This was the exclusive mining area contract of Spirit Jade Hall. In order to not let him go back on his word, this eldest senior brother had made full preparations. As long as he signed it, even if he went back on his word later, he would not be able to not change the mining area. Hee, isn't it just digging a hole for me to jump into? This act is quite decent. Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. He didn't say any nonsense and directly signed the contract. Only then did Meng Jueguang let go of the black bag and took the little spirit jade from Lin Yi. In that case, many thanks for senior brother Meng's care. Lin Yi smiled and carried a heavy bag of 25 pieces of spirit jades. He turned around and left. He watched as Lin Yi walked back into the cave. Only then did Meng Jueguang and Ming Tong looked at each other and let out a long breath. This kid is really not a fuel-efficient lamp. It's really not easy to fool him once. Fortunately, I brought so many waste jades in case of accidents. Otherwise, it would really be hard to get off the tiger. This bag of spirit jades that he gave to Lin Yi were all waste jades that he brought out from Spirit Jade Hall through his connections. It was for the sake of tricking Lin Yi. Otherwise, how would he be so generous to give way to Lin Yi? Hee, that kid is still complacent and thinks that he has taken advantage of it. In fact, he is a downright idiot. When he finds out that these are all waste jades, I want to see what kind of wonderful expression he will have tomorrow. Meng Tong said with a smile at the side. These 25 pieces of waste jade seemed to be a lot, but in fact, they were all a thin layer of energy on the surface. The core in the middle was the waste jades. So even if there were a lot of them, if the energy added together was 1/10 of that egg-sized good spirit jade, one would have to burn incense to thank the gods. So at this moment, in the view of Meng Jueguang and Ming Tong, Lin Yi was absolutely cheated by the two of them this time. Not only did he foolishly agree to exchange the mining area, but he also took out a piece of small spirit jade. It was simply a double loss. To think that he still had a shrewd look when making the transaction. This kind of self-righteous idiot. It was simply the only one in the world. Returning to the cave, Lin Yi took out the 25 pieces of spirit jades and examined them one by one. He suddenly understood in his heart. It was the same as his previous guess. These 25 pieces were all waste jades with only a trace of spiritual qi. In fact, this was also a very normal thing, given his relationship with Meng Jueguang. Even if Meng Jueguang's story of searching for small spirit jades was true, such a good thing would never fall into Lin Yi's hands. 25 pieces of good spirit jade for a piece of low spirit jade. Lin Yi never believed in such a good thing. However, although Meng Jueguang used 25 pieces of waste jades to exchange for his own small spirit jade, it did seem to be a big loss. For Lin Yi, who was sitting in the space of the jade pendant, this was exactly what he wanted. Otherwise, he would not have foolishly agreed after guessing the other party's intentions. Since the space of the jade pendant could quickly charge the spirit jade, any piece of waste jades in Lin Yi's hands would be thoroughly good jades. Not to mention 25 pieces of waste jades for one. Even if it was 2 pieces of waste jades for one, it would still be a profit for him. What Lin Yi needed now was this kind of superficial waste jades. Compared to working hard every day in the mining area and only being able to steal 2 pieces of spirit jade, Meng Jueguang's plot to cheat him was simply a good person who delivered goods to his doorstep. 25 pieces of waste jades were equivalent to Lin Yi's results in less than half a month. It would be better if he did it a few more times. In contrast, the matter of changing the mining area was not worth mentioning. In any case, Lin Yi's previous good jades were not really dug out by luck. With the space of the jade pendant, this cheating artifact, he could dig out good jades wherever he went. Moreover, from the results of Ming Tong and Li Zhengming's daily mining, the 7th mining area not only produced good jades, but the probability of digging out a superficial waste jades was also significantly higher. In this way, as long as Linny was familiar with the environment and the distribution of guards there, it would be easier to steal spirit jade than in the 10th mining area. On the morning of the second day, Lin Yi went to Spirit Jade Hall to report as usual. He happened to meet Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong at the door, so he calmly stepped forward to greet them. "Good morning, Senior Brother Meng." "Good morning." Meng Jueguang carefully looked at Lin Yi's expression, but did not find any trace of unusual expression on his face. He could not help looking at Meng Tong in surprise. Could it be that this guy still did not find out the trick in those spirit jades? Because Meng Jueguang had already informed Dai Wuchang and the others, Lin Yi smoothly exchanged the pass token of the 7th mining area. Without saying a word, he entered the mine tunnel. From beginning to end, he did not say a word to these two people, and did not show any unusual behavior. Looking at this kid's reaction, it should be that he has not found out that the bag is full of waste jades. Otherwise, he absolutely would not be so calm. Meng Jueguang turned his head and muttered to Meng Tong, "Heh, previously looking at this guy's performance, I still felt that he was quite shrewd. It turns out that this is all a facade." A whole night passed, and he still hasn't found that bag of waste jades. Even a pig is not so slow, simply more stupid than a pig. Meng Tong gloated and laughed. Chapter 36:12. Then he continued, "That's 25 pieces of spiritual jades. For ordinary people, it's like a windfall from the sky. It's just like what they say in the secular world, winning 5 million in the lottery. It's normal for him not to react overnight. What's more, the excuse I gave him yesterday was reasonable, and it wasn't a lie. If he doesn't believe it, then he'll be crazy." That's true. We racked our brains to set such a trap for him. If this kid reacted so quickly, then he'd be letting down Cousin Jia's efforts. Meng Tong nodded in agreement. Hey, maybe this kid will be like this for the next few days. He thought he'd become a local tycoon with 25 pieces of spiritual jades, but in the end, he found out that it's just a pile of useless jade. Ha ha ha, the higher the expectation, the more miserable the fall. His expression will be wonderful then, Meng Jueguang said with some complacency. Ever since the first day the newbies reported in, he and Lin Yi had never gained any advantage in direct or indirect confrontations. On the contrary, it was him, the steward, who had been humiliated quite a bit. Even when Lin Yi was kicked to the 10th mining area by him, he still managed to make a name for himself in the end, making him lose all face. But this time, Lin Yi had truly been tricked by him. Not only did he change the mine, but he'd also lost a good piece of jade. He'd been tricked so badly that his face was covered in blood. For the steward, Meng Jueguang, playing with Lin Yi, this troublesome newcomer, was far more satisfying than cleaning up the other fence-sitters. This was the scene he had been looking forward to for a long time. If these two people knew that not only did they not cheat Lin Yi, but they even gave Lin Yi a big gift, it was really hard to know what expression they would have. Of course, as long as Lin Yi didn't say it himself, these two people would never know the truth for the rest of their lives. It was estimated that they would continue to be complacent. Walking along mine number 7, the environment was almost the same, even though it was a winding tunnel. However, Lin Yi could clearly feel the difference between this place and mine number 10. Not only was mine tunnel number 10 more remote and secluded than mine tunnel number 7, but there weren't as many people in mine tunnel number 10. Compared to mine tunnel number 10, where there was not a single living person to be seen, mine tunnel number 7 was quite lively. From time to time, they would see other people of the same trade. As a matter of fact, mines like mine number 7, which was ranked below average, had the highest number of people among all the mines. After all, he was a miner. In addition to pure newcomers like Lin Yi, the main group was the previous newcomers who had not successfully reached the foundation establishment stage in the welcoming pavilion. According to the rules, they could not directly join the 3 great pavilions. Instead, they could only work hard in places like the Spirit Jade Mine while seeking a breakthrough. Compared to the soaring pavilion with a deep background and the powerful mysterious pavilion, The group of grassroots rogue cultivators from Blue Cloud Pavilion was more likely to fail to reach the foundation establishment stage. The number of laborers assigned to the mining areas was also higher. As for the mining areas ranked higher, although the jade production rate was higher, those areas were allocated to the Soaring Sky Pavilion and Profound Secrets Pavilion. Compared to the Clear Cloud Pavilion's mining area 7, the number of laborers assigned to them was naturally lower. After arriving at mine number 7, Linny looked around and found an empty mine to start working. He didn't plan to steal the hidden spirit jades today. His main purpose was to scout and familiarize himself with the environment. After all, including the 25 pieces that Meng Jueguang had given him yesterday, Linny now had a total of 31 pieces of spirit jades on hand. It was enough for him to buy several sets of alchemy ingredients. It could be said that he was not in urgent need of spirit jades in a short period of time, so he could take it slow and steady. While mining, Linny kept an eye on his surroundings. Soon, he obtained several pieces of useful information. First, the strictness of the surveillance in mine number 7 far exceeded that in mine number 10. Although the two mining areas were about the same in terms of area, there were only 2 guards in total in mining area 10, while there were 10 guards in mining area 7. Not only were there fixed sentries, but there were also specialized patrols. It was such a dense surveillance. With such intensive surveillance, a normal heaven stage expert would not be able to do anything. To have such crooked thoughts was simply courting death. Second, there were a lot of people in mine number 7. In the huge mine number 7, there were dozens of scattered mining sites. Other than a few that no one paid attention to, there were at least 1 or 2 people mining. There were at least 1 or 2 people mining at each of the other mines. Some popular mines even had 4 or 5 people surrounding them. This was simply not digging for spirit jades, but snatching spirit jades. Third, the jade extraction rate in mine number 7 was indeed much higher than that of mine number 10. In less than an hour, Linny had already dug out 6 pieces of spirit jades. 2 of them were pure useless jades. Following the method of the people beside him, they were directly thrown into the empty space behind them. There would be specialized guards who would collect them. 3 of them were useless jades with thin spiritual energy. As for the last one, it was actually a good jade full of spiritual energy. This jade extraction speed was simply incomparable to the one in mine number 10 2 days ago. Linny nodded secretly. Comparing people to people, one would die. It could be seen that Spirit Jade Hall's division of mining sites was very reasonable. As he was looking around, a loud noise suddenly came from the side. Linny could not help but turn his head to look, and unexpectedly found a familiar face. Because the other Blue Cloud Pavilion newcomers were all assigned to mine number 8 by Meng Jueguang, and Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong did not appear, Linny did not recognize any of the dozens of people in mine number 7. There was only one exception, Li Jingming. From the first day until now, other than hugging Meng Jueguang's thigh, Li Jingming did not have any special performance. It felt like he was purely Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong's follower, and there was nothing outstanding about him. However, the impression this person gave Linny was far from being transparent. On the contrary, this person was very scheming. If one had to say, he was much more difficult to deal with than a brainless guy like Meng Tong. However, this Li Jingming only catered to Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong from beginning to end, and never took the initiative to make things difficult for Linny. As long as the well water did not interfere with the river water, Linny could not be bothered to waste energy to pay attention to him. The loud noise just now came from where Li Jingming was. As for the surrounding people, whether they were guards or miners, they all turned a deaf ear to it, as if they were already used to it. Chapter 36:13. In the next moment, Linny quickly understood why there was such a movement. It turned out that Li Jingming was not like the others who were mining honestly. Instead, he used the jade shovel in his hand as a weapon and attacked the mining spot with all his might, revealing his strength as a peak late-stage heaven stage. It's just mining. Do you have to be so exaggerated? Is this guy crazy? Linny couldn't help but roll his eyes. Although Li Jingming's posture looked awesome, after all, it was a peak late-stage heaven stage expert's full power. The problem was that the spirit jade was a hard existence that even a foundation establishment expert couldn't break. Even the other ores around it were extremely hard. Li Zhengming looked like he was risking his life, but in fact, it was a waste of energy. It was far more efficient than using normal mining techniques. In Lin Yi's view, Li Zhengming was definitely not a fool. After trying this kind of thing once or twice, it would be easy to come to a conclusion. However, to his surprise, after Li Zhengming calmed down for a while, he immediately performed the same act again. It was as if he had some deep hatred for the mining spot. Once he recovered, he would attack with all his might. Could this guy really be sick? As soon as this thought appeared, it was eliminated by Lin Yi himself. No expert who could get to the heaven stage would be a real fool. Li Zhengming must have a special intention for doing this deliberately. Could it be that he was using the mining time to practice some special martial arts? Lin Yi thoughtfully looked at the opponent up and down, but it didn't seem like it. This kind of deliberate feeling was more like he was showing off his peak late-stage heaven stage strength from time to time. However, he was just a peak late-stage heaven stage. Looking at the whole scene, including the guards and miners, this strength was probably at the bottom. What was there to show off? Could it be? Thinking of his own situation, Lin Yi suddenly thought of something and carefully observed Li Zhengming like never before. Only then did he finally realize that the reason this guy kept bragging about his peak late-stage heaven-rank strength was to hide his strength. If it wasn't for this deliberate action that aroused Lin Yi's curiosity, even if Lin Yi had the ability to see through the strength of experts below the heaven-rank great perfection, he might not have noticed that Li Zhengming, who appeared to be at the peak of the heaven rank, was actually a heaven-rank great perfection expert. In fact, if it wasn't for Lin Yi's habit of hiding his strength, others wouldn't even think in this direction. Who would have thought that he was a sky-class late-phase peak guy who was constantly showing off his strength? So it turned out to be a perfect heaven-rank late-phase peak. But why did this Li Zhengming deliberately hide his strength? Lin Yi was a little puzzled. The reason why he deliberately hid his early-stage foundation establishment strength was because he was unfamiliar with this place after coming to Heaven Rank Island. Moreover, there were new and old enemies like Su Lingchong, Meng Jueguang, and Kang Ming. Hiding his strength was to allow himself to always maintain the initiative and not be tricked to death by these enemies. But after these days of observation, this Li Zhengming was not like him who was in the limelight. Instead, it could be said that he was a low-key and transparent figure. There were no enemies eyeing him covetously, and the strength of a heaven-rank great perfection was not very outstanding among the newcomers in the welcome pavilion. Was there a need to hide his strength in this cultivation world where the strong were respected? But even if he was puzzled, it had nothing to do with him anyway. Lin Yi was not interested in meddling in other people's business. His current task was to familiarize himself with the mining area and then try to steal the hidden spirit jade. As for this Li Zhengming, who cared why he hid his strength? Anyway, it was fine as long as he couldn't threaten him. Apart from this Li Zhengming, there was another thing that made Lin Yi quite concerned. It had already been 2 hours since they started working. He did not see the figures of Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong. But after thinking about it, the corner of Lin Yi's mouth could not help but reveal a trace of a playful smile. These two people did everything possible to get him to the 7th mining area, but they did not appear for a long time. From the looks of it, they should be going to the 10th mining area. Maybe these two people wanted to find the secret of him digging up so many good jades in 2 consecutive days. Lin Yi could only say, take your time to look for it. If you can dig up good jades, you two are awesome. Not only is it awesome, it is really awesome. As a matter of fact, as Lin Yi expected, Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong really went to the 10th mining area. Just like what Lin Yi had said to Lu Bianren and senior brother Ku Bai, based on the summary of the situation 2 days ago, these two people had already determined that Lin Yi found a high-quality mining area in the 10th mining area with an extremely high jade yield rate, especially a high probability of producing good jades. In terms of quality, this mining area could completely suppress the 7th mining area. In fact, for a senior brother like Meng Jueguang who was in charge, digging up 8 or 10 pieces of good jades a day was nothing to make a fuss about. It was even more impossible for him to be tempted. But the problem was that this was the 10th mining area that was sparsely guarded. Although the jade production rate of the 7th mining area was not bad, the security was tight. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, even if he, Meng Jueguang, was more quick-witted, it would be hard for him to do anything. However, it was different in this dead mining area. With his connections in the Spirit Jade Hall, it was absolutely easy for him to do anything here. The reason why he did not have any ideas about this place before was purely because there was no good jade to be dug up here. But if he found a mining area with a quality that was not inferior to the 7th mining area, the significance would be completely different. As long as the operation was done well, Meng Jueguang was completely confident that he could manage this place into his personal spiritual jade mine. As long as he had a lot of spiritual jades, wouldn't it be just around the corner in the future? Of course, the top priority was to confirm that there was indeed a good mining area here. So after Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong arrived at the 10th mining area, they asked the guards carefully, and then went straight to the mining area where Lin Yi had dug before. What is this situation? What is Meng Jueguang, the supervisor of the Welcome Pavilion, doing here in this dead mining area? Could it be that this newbie named Meng Tong has offended him so much that he personally came here to supervise the work? Doesn't look like it. The two guards were confused. They were only responsible for providing the weighing account book as proof of comparison during the weighing. As for how many pieces of good jade and how many pieces of waste jade were produced, it had nothing to do with them. Moreover, the idea that there was no good jade in the 10th mining area had always been deeply rooted. So these two guards did not know that Lin Yi had handed in a total of 18 pieces of good jade 2 days ago. Chapter 36:14. Meng Tong had already prepared his jade shovel and was itching to try. Even if he really found a high-quality mine here, Meng Jueguang might not give him many spiritual jades in the future. However, Meng Jueguang was his biggest backer. As long as Meng Jueguang made a meteoric rise, his status would naturally rise as well. Even though Meng Tong's brain was not very bright, he still had this little bit of survival wisdom. Meng Tong waved his arms and dug with all his might. However, the reality was completely different from what he had imagined. After working hard for an hour, he only managed to dig out 2 pieces of spirit jade. Moreover, both of them were useless pieces of jade that only had the appearance of being of good quality. Meng Jueguang finally could not sit still anymore. This was a matter of great importance to his future. Ever since he deduced this conclusion, his ambition depended on this mine to be realized. Otherwise, he would not have tried so hard to replace Lin Yi. After all, if it was purely to punish Lin Yi, why would he change Lin Yi to mine number 7? The reason why he proposed this condition was only to entice Lin Yi to agree as soon as possible. But now, seeing that the jade extraction rate of this mine was far from what he had expected, Meng Jueguang was in a difficult situation. If he could not dig out any good jade no matter what, then the beautiful future that he had previously imagined was simply a daydream. Picking up the other spare jade shovel, Meng Jueguang no longer cared about the dignity of the senior in charge. He could not wait to personally go into action. Damn, what year is this? Even a guy like Meng Jueguang who knows how to put on airs has personally come to mind? The two guards in the distance saw this scene and could not help but be taken aback, dumbfounded. These two were also people from Blue Cloud Pavilion. In the past, they had also dealt with Meng Jueguang a few times. In front of these low-level guards of Spirit Jade Hall, Meng Jueguang, as the supervisor of the welcoming pavilion, had always been arrogant. They had never seen him act so close to the people. Today was really the day when the sun rose from the west. However, even if Meng Jueguang personally went into action, as the senior in charge, he did not see many good jades being dug out. Even if he could occasionally dig out a few pieces of spiritual jade after working hard for half a day, they were either trash jades that were obvious at a glance, or waste jades that had thin spiritual qi. As for good jades that were full of spiritual qi, even if he and Meng Tong did not give up and worked hard for a whole day, they still could not dig out a piece. Until the bell of the mining area rang, under the greeting of the two guards. Only then did Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong came to a stop with their faces covered in dirt. Looking at the basket filled with less than 30 pieces of waste jades, The two simply wanted to cry but had no tears. What kind of joke was this? Linny, that bastard, could dig out 8 or 10 pieces of good jade in 2 days. If it was the two of us, we worked hard for a whole day, but in the end, we could not even get a piece of good jade. This was way too freaking weird. You guys, you two must be lying to me. This is not the mine that Lin Yi was digging before, right? Meng Jueguang suddenly turned his head and stared fiercely at the two guards, flying into a rage out of humiliation. The two guards suddenly jumped in fright. Not to mention that Meng Jueguang's strength was originally above them. Just based on the other party's wide network in this Spirit Jade Hall, they could not afford to offend this guy. The two hurriedly distanced themselves. Senior brother Meng, how can you say that? Lin Yi was indeed digging for jade at this mine before. What's there to lie to you about? If there is even half a word of falsehood, may the heavens strike us with lightning. Really? Meng Jueguang frowned at the two dubiously. Strictly speaking, these two did not seem to have any reason to lie to him. Of course it's true. And senior brother Meng, you're also someone who has experienced it. Which mine points have been abandoned for a long time, and which mine points have been mined recently, these are all things that can be seen at a glance. Our number 10 mine area only had Lin Yi recently. The two guards hurriedly explained, that's true. Meng Jueguang then reluctantly believed the words of the two. In the end, he began to doubt himself again. Could it be that there is actually good jade in these spirit jades that were dug out today, but I just made a mistake? The same mine area, the same mine point, Lin Yi could dig out so much good jade in 2 consecutive days, but if it was him and Meng Tong, they could not even dig out a piece of good jade after working for a whole day in vain. Rather than believing such a ridiculous fact, Meng Jueguang would rather deceive himself and others and believe that he had made a mistake. Let's go and hand in the work. The more Meng Jueguang thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. Without a second word, he immediately called Meng Tong. They hurriedly set off on their return journey. The two of them passed through the long tunnel number 10. When they finally arrived at the handover site, they happened to meet Lin Yi, who had just come out of the tunnel number 7. Seeing the two of them sweating profusely, Lin Yi was slightly stunned, and then he greeted them with a faint smile. Damn, this guy can't be waiting here to make a fool of us, right? Thinking of what they had done 2 days ago, Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong's hearts suddenly skipped a beat. However, the two of them really misunderstood Lin Yi. Although Lin Yi had long expected that Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong would not dig out any good jade, even so, he did not have the leisure to wait here and watch them make a fool of themselves. The reason why they met here was purely that Lin Yi wanted to observe the work and rest schedule of the guards in the 7th mine. Therefore, he deliberately stayed in the mine for a while. This was just a complete coincidence. However, as the saying goes, ex person ex heart. Even if it was really a coincidence, in the eyes of Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong, it was definitely a coincidence deliberately created by Lin Yi. This bastard was holding back his strength to see the two of them make a fool of themselves. However, even if the two of them held back their strength to not let Lin Yi see them make a fool of themselves, Lin Yi finally saw it, as expected. There was nothing much to say about the weighing. The key was the quality inspection result. Meng Tong, 0 good jade, 27 pieces of waste jade. This sentence completely sentenced their previous luck on the road to death. Both Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong's expressions suddenly became dull, and they did not come back to their senses for a long time. Hee. To be able to dig out 27 pieces of waste jade in the 10th mine, the harvest is not bad. Congratulations. At the side, Lin Yi nodded and smiled faintly. In fact, he did not know that today, even Meng Jueguang personally went to the mine. According to the rhythm of his previous 2 days, which was less than 20 pieces of waste jade, Meng Tong's 27 pieces were indeed not bad. Therefore, his blessings were really from the heart. Chapter 36:15. What are you so proud of? You've only been lucky for 2 days. You won't be able to dig out any good jade in the future. Meng Tong couldn't help but say angrily. If it had always been in the 10th mine, then it would be hard to say. But now, Lin Yi raised his eyebrows. At this time, the quality inspector reported, Lin E, 7 pieces of good jade, 23 pieces of useless jade. Meng Tong couldn't help but feel suffocated. Even Meng Jueguang, who was next to him, looked at him with a speechless expression as if he was looking at an idiot. Meng Tong had already been transferred to the 7th mining area. How could he not dig up good jade? Saying such stupid words without thinking was simply asking for a slap in the face. Are the two of you going to continue working hard in the 10th mine tomorrow? Let me give you a friendly reminder. I've already taken all the luck from the 10th mine, and it'll be hard to get any good jade, Linny said with a smile that wasn't quite a smile on his face. He turned around and left, ignoring the two. F***CK. This bastard's arrogance knows no bounds. Meng Tong looked at Lin Yi's back and gritted his teeth. What do you mean by taking away all the luck in the 10th mine? He's just a country bumpkin from the secular world. So what? Although Meng Jueguang was also furious, he forcefully suppressed his anger and said thoughtfully, what does this kid mean by saying that on purpose? Is he afraid that we'll continue to dig in the 10th mine and we'll dig out some good jade? Yes, that must be it. Meng Tong's eyes lit up when he heard that. He said excitedly, this guy must be afraid that we'll dig out some good jade. That's why he said that on purpose to make us retreat. Ninth cousin is really smart. This bastard is 2F** king cunning. Humph, it seems like that's the case. Even if it's a high-quality mine, it's normal to have a shortage of good jade. As long as we continue to dig tomorrow, we'll definitely dig out some good jade. Chapter 36:16. This time, it was Li Zhengming who was stunned. Since when did Lin Yi become so docile and modest? According to his tough style of talking back to people like Su Lingqiong and Meng Jueguang, it should be normal for him to find trouble with me at this time. Why did he become a coward without saying anything? However, despite his doubts, Li Zhengming could not help but let out a sigh of relief. He had witnessed Lin Yi's strength on the first day he came to the welcome pavilion. He was able to defeat Meng Tong in one move, so he was definitely not easy to deal with. If Lin Yi really insisted on finding trouble with him, unless he was willing to be beaten into a pig's head, the fact that he had hidden his strength would be exposed. The loss outweighed the gain. Giving up the high-quality mining spot that Li Zhengming had occupied, Lin Yi randomly found a slightly remote, uninhabited mining spot. Although it was not in the corner, it did not attract as much attention as before. As long as he was a little careful, it would be enough to ensure a safe operation. However, just as Linny was about to put down the basket, someone suddenly cut in line and rushed in front of him. He stared at Linny with an unfriendly face and said, Kid, this is the mining spot that I have my eyes on. Do you want to compete with me? However, just as Linny was about to put down the basket, someone suddenly cut in line and rushed in front of him. He stared at Linny with an unfriendly face and said, Kid, this is the mining spot that I have my eyes on. Do you want to compete with me? Linny frowned slightly. This person was one of the many former rookies who dug for jade in the 7th mining area. Because he deliberately observed the environment yesterday, Linny had some impression of these unfamiliar faces. However, in his memory, this person was not at his current mining spot yesterday. However, Linny soon found that something was wrong. Every time he walked to a mining spot, there would always be someone rushing in front of him. It should be known that in order to facilitate his operation, these mining spots were relatively remote mining spots with fewer people. And according to his observation yesterday, there was originally no one there. It felt as if everyone in the mining area was deliberately targeting him. Could it be that Meng Jueguang and his partner had sent someone to annoy him because they couldn't find any jade in the 10th mining area? Thinking about Li Zhengming's previous actions, Lin Yi quickly guessed the whole story. These people really listened to Meng Jueguang's instructions, so they deliberately ganged up on him. Not only Li Zhengming, but everyone else here was also Meng Jueguang's lackeys. Meng Jueguang was an experienced manager of the Welcome Pavilion. Not only this batch of newcomers like Lin Yi, even these previous batch of newcomers present all more or less bore his imprint. Moreover, he had extensive connections in the Spirit Jade Hall. These people would naturally do their utmost to curry favor with him in order to be able to get rid of these dark days as soon as possible. What's more, squeezing out Lin Yi was a completely trivial matter. Although in the mining area, there was no hard and fast rule that only one person could dig for jade in a mining area. Encountering this kind of situation where others snatched a mining area, even if Lin Yi couldn't directly stop it, he could also completely stay and not leave. In this way, the other party also couldn't do anything. It was impossible for them to rashly attack Lin Yi just to snatch a mining area. Under the watchful eyes of so many Foundation establishment stage guards, making a move without permission was simply courting death. He would be pinned with the charge of a mining riot. Even if he was killed on the spot, there was no way to explain it. But if he really shared a mining area with others, then it would be completely different from Lin Yi's original intention of hiding in peace. Not only would the efficiency of digging jade be inevitably affected, but more importantly, this was equivalent to having one more person closely monitoring him. Lin Yi simply couldn't think of stealing any spirit jade anymore. So facing this kind of situation, Lin Yi went against his previous strong attitude and actually chose to retreat again and again. So much so that in the end, he was forced to a mining area in the furthest corner, and finally no one came to disturb him. This was the most run-down mining area in the entire 7th mining area. Not only was the jade production rate far lower than other mining areas, but it also seemed that no one had mined here for a long time. What exactly did this unlucky newbie do? He was actually bullied by a group of trash who failed to reach the Foundation establishment stage, and he didn't even dare to fart. Isn't he too weak? Hey, I heard that it was Meng Jueguang who called for it. This kid didn't even have eyes to offend a person like Meng Jueguang. He really deserved to be unlucky. The mining area he found hasn't been used for a few years, right? Can he still dig out jade? Who cares if he can dig out jade or not? Anyway, it has nothing to do with us. That mining area is so remote. I even find it difficult to turn around and take a look. It's good that he can't dig out jade. We don't have to go back and forth. The group of guards looked at this scene and sighed. Every one of them looked like they were watching a good show, but they didn't have the slightest intention of interfering. They were assigned to guard the mining area, and they were bored to death every day, so they liked to watch this kind of harmless show. Of course, if the scale went too far, such as not even leaving the last mining area for Lin Yi, or if someone directly made a move, then they would have to step in. After discussing for a while, the group of guards quickly shifted their attention away from Lin Yi. Because the mining area was so remote, even the guard closest to Lin Yi was at least 40 to 50 steps away from Lin Yi. Lin Yi wouldn't be able to notice any small movements, which was exactly what Lin Yi wanted. In this way, there would be no problem at all if he continued to operate like he did in the 10th mining area. While digging for jade, he smoothly replaced the pillar with the beam when the guards weren't paying attention. Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh secretly. Although Meng Jueguang was his enemy, when he recalled everything that had happened before, this guy was simply a benefactor in his life. Not only did he give me the cave abode, the spiritual jade, and the mining area, he even helped me when I encountered a little problem. If this was in the secular world, I should really give this guy a few good guy cards. Lin Yi was in a good mood because everything was going smoothly, but Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong, who were rooted in the 10th mining area, were not in such a good mood. Not only were they not happy, but they were actually extremely bad. In the same mining area, the same mining spot, Meng Jueguang also personally went to work. However, after he and Meng Tong worked for a whole day, the result was the same as yesterday, nothing. They did dig out a few pieces of waste jade, but there was still no good jade. Chapter 36:17. Damn it! Why isn't there a single piece of good jade? Is it really like what that brat said? Is he the only one who can dig out good jade in this dead mining area? This is too strange. Meng Jueguang couldn't help but cry out. After 2 days without any results, even with Meng Jueguang's shrewdness, he finally began to lose his cool. Ninth cousin, is it possible that there is no good jade in this dead mining area at all? That brat Lin Yi was just lucky enough to dig out a few pieces, and all the good jade in this mining area has been dug out by him? Meng Tong was dejected, scratching his head and muttering, "Your words have enlightened me. If there is really good jade in this mining area, then it is impossible that he is the only one who can find it and we can't. Meng Jueguang nodded thoughtfully and said, "We have been busy for 2 days without any results. Maybe there really is no good jade left here. This mining area is not the kind of high-quality mining area that we previously speculated. There are only a few pieces of good jade here, and that brat Linny has picked them up. Then what should we do? Are we still going to dig tomorrow?" Meng Tong looked at Meng Jueguang eagerly. He had worked hard for 2 days in a row, but not even a single piece of good jade had entered his account. He was about to go crazy. Meng Jueguang was a senior steward, so he might not care about this small reward. But he, Meng Tong, was just a newcomer. Instead of wasting his time here, it was better to return to mine number 7 as soon as possible. Even if he could earn half a piece of spirit jade as a reward, it would still be a good thing. Meng Jueguang shook his head and said, "But what if this is really a high-quality mining area? We just happened to hit a relatively thick fault. Maybe we can dig out good jade tomorrow. If we give up so easily, wouldn't it be a big loss?" Worried about the gains and losses, Meng Jueguang had subconsciously fallen into a very typical gambler's mentality. He was definitely not willing to continue wasting his time here, but he was also not willing to give up just like that. He was afraid that he would lose the opportunity to obtain such good quality spiritual jade so close to him. But what if there is no good jade? Meng Tong cried with a bitter face. Of course, he also hoped to dig out good jade, but if he continued to waste time without any results, he was the one who would suffer a loss. When Meng Jueguang threw Lin Yi to the 10th mining area, didn't he want to waste time here? Now, Lin Yi was swapped to the 7th mining area, while Meng Tong, the loyal little brother, was thrown to the dead mining area to suffer. If only we could find out if there is good jade here. Meng Tong could not help muttering. He really did not want to continue wasting time here. His words made Meng Jueguang have a flash of inspiration. He patted his head and said, "Yes. We can find the exploration experts of Lingyu Hall to take a look. Whether there is good jade in this dead mining area, we can find out by letting them explore again. It's really good to look." Meng Tong was stunned, and then looked at Meng Jueguang with a strange face and said, "Ninth cousin, why didn't you say so earlier? Didn't you work hard these 2 days in vain?" That was then and this is now. What do you know?" Meng Jueguang could not help but reprimand him with a red face. In fact, it was not that he did not think of this move. The main thing was that he thought that after discovering a good quality mine, he could make a fortune by himself. If he hired the exploration experts of Lingyu Hall, once they really found a good quality mine, even if he did not report it, he would at least have a share of the profits. This was obviously not in line with Meng Jueguang's interests. It was just that after working hard for 2 days, they could not even dig up a piece of good jade. When it was difficult to get down, it was not a bad idea to find the exploration experts. Even if they had to share some of the profits with the other party, it was better than the two of them continuing to work blindly like headless flies. After making up his mind, Meng Jueguang immediately left the mining area. These years, due to the network of connections he had built up, he knew one of the exploration experts of Lingyu Hall. But the other party was also a steward-level figure of Lingyu Hall. He was not someone that Meng Jueguang could order to come and go at his beck and call. He planned to first make friends with the other party overnight, so that he could ask the other party to come and help tomorrow. As for Meng Tong, he was sent away by Meng Jueguang to hand over the work with a sullen face, digging up a pile of waste jade, but not even a piece of good jade. It was enough that Linny bumped into such a shameful thing yesterday. If it happened again, where would he, Meng Jueguang, the steward, put his old face? But what made Meng Tong happy was that, under his deliberate dawdling and the fact that the 10th mining area was very far away, by the time he handed over the work, almost all the people in the mining area had left. Lin Yi would not be so bored as to specifically wait here to see him make a fool of himself. So he escaped the disaster. Early the next morning, Meng Jueguang could not wait to invite the exploration expert he found to the 10th dead mining area. Along the way, the exploration expert could not help but ask curiously, "Old Meng, I am puzzled. What is there to explore in a dead mining area like the 10th mining area where even birds don't shit? Isn't it a waste of time to ask me to come?" Senior Brother Ma, I originally thought so, but a few days ago, there was a newcomer in our Blue Cloud Pavilion who dug out 8 or 10 pieces of good jade in 2 consecutive days. So I felt that there might be something fishy here. Meng Jueguang explained. The exploration expert called Senior Brother Ma had a distracted look at first, but when he heard this, he was immediately stunned. He dug out so much good jade in 2 consecutive days? Could it be that he accidentally stumbled upon a high quality or spot? Senior Brother Ma is indeed an expert. You hit the nail on the head. I think so too. So I specially asked Senior Brother Ma to make a trip. Meng Jueguang nodded. As the two talked, they arrived at the 10th mining area. After listening to Meng Jueguang's words, Senior Brother Ma no longer perfunctorily and began to explore seriously. After all, for an exploration expert like him, if he could find good jade in the 10th mining area and report it to Spirit Jade Hall, it would be a real great contribution. Under Meng Jueguang's expectant face, Senior Brother Ma busied himself for a while and soon came up with a result. With a sullen face, he said, "There is no such high-quality mining area, Old Meng. It is similar to the results of the previous regular exploration. The proportion of spiritual jade in the 10th mining area does not exceed 10%, and the concentration of spiritual qi is far from enough. In other words, even if there is 10% of spiritual jade, it is basically waste jade with thin spiritual qi. It is unlikely that there will be any good jade." Chapter 36:18. You don't believe me? Senior Brother Ma's face was not good, but due to his friendship with Meng Jueguang in the past, he still patiently explored the mining site alone, and then slightly surprised. "What? Did you find a good jade?" Meng Jueguang asked hurriedly, and Meng Tong, who was behind him, also looked expectant. The proportion of spiritual jades in this mining site is a little more than other places. It should be about 15%, and the concentration of spiritual qi is also a lot higher. Senior Brother Ma pondered for a moment, then shook his head and said, "But it is still far below the average level. Even if good jade can be found in this place, it is at most 30 or 40 pieces. There is not much value at all." Only 30 or 40 pieces. The face of Meng Jueguang, who was full of expectations, suddenly collapsed. This was completely different from the high-quality mining site he had expected. Yes, this is still an optimistic estimate. In fact, if we want to dig out these 30 or 40 pieces of good jade, we don't know how much effort it will take. It will take at least 2 or 3 months. Senior Brother Ma said resolutely, "Damn, so I really shot myself in the foot, and have been busy for 2 days in vain?" Meng Jueguang whispered to himself, but he did not have the slightest doubt about Senior Brother Ma's judgment. After all, the other party was an exploration expert specially supported by Lingyu Hall, and he had the absolute right to speak in this regard. Since he had come to a conclusion, then it would certainly not be wrong. "I say, Old Meng, you are also the #1 figure in the Welcome Pavilion. It is better to be a little more steady. Next time, don't pull me over because of some newbie who got lucky once. It is simply a waste of time." Senior Brother Ma complained a few words of dissatisfaction, and Meng Jueguang had to nod again and again, respectfully sending off the exploration expert. After sending off Senior Brother Ma, in the #10 mining area, there were only Meng Jueguang, Meng Tong, and the 2 board guards in the distance. "Ninth cousin, what should we do now? There is no need to waste time here, right?" Meng Tong asked. According to Senior Brother Ma, although there were still 30 to 40 pieces of good jade in the mine, it would take at least 2 to 3 months of hard work to dig them out. On average, it was less than 1 piece a day. It was completely incomparable to the 7th mine. Meng Jueguang nodded dejectedly. "Indeed, there's no need to waste any more time. This mining area #10 is really a trap. I must have been blinded by greed for a moment to be bewitched by this evil fellow, Lin Yi. It's a waste of energy to come here. Instead, he's been able to comfortably mine in mine #7 for 2 days." Although Meng Jueguang had specifically informed the people in mining area #7 to pressure Lin Yi, it did not change the fact that Lin Yi was staying in mining area #7. Even if it was the most worthless mine in mining area #7, it was still far better than the desolate mining area number 10. Thinking that Lin Yi was now comfortably staying in mining area number 7, Meng Tong gnashed his teeth in hatred. Meng Tong gritted his teeth in anger. That was his territory, and now it was taken over by this bastard. Cousin Jiao, let's kick that bastard Lin Yi back. Let's just let him suffocate in mine number 10. Meng Tong gritted his teeth and said, Cousin Jiao, let's kick Lin Yi back. Indeed, we must quickly find a way to kick this fellow back. Otherwise, it will be too easy for him. Meng Jueguang nodded reluctantly. Then, he felt a little awkward. But how to make him agree to exchange? This is another problem. This fellow has tasted the sweetness in mining area number 7. He certainly doesn't want to come back to this desolate mining area number 10. Even if Meng Jueguang had a deep network in Spirit Jade Hall, the rules of Spirit Jade Hall were still there. If someone wanted to exchange a mining area, they must sign the contract in person. Just like when he asked Lin Yi to exchange to mining area number 7, he tried every possible way to entice Lin Yi to sign the contract on the spot. Now, he wanted to exchange Lin Yi back. He had to find a way to make Lin Yi sign the contract. Otherwise, if Lin Yi did not agree, even if Meng Jueguang found Dai Wuchang to complete the formalities, it would be useless. After all, the other party was not the kind of previous newcomer who failed to build his foundation and had no human rights. Under the premise that there was no special reason, even if it was Meng Jueguang, the big senior brother in charge, there was no way to force Lin Yi on this matter. Meng Tong frowned and thought for a moment. Ninth cousin, why don't we give him another 25 pieces of waste jade? You're an idiot. Meng Jueguang did not know whether to laugh or cry. Why did he have such an idiot cousin? He rolled his eyes and scolded. Do you think Lin Yi is as stupid as you? Is it not enough that he was tricked once before? Will he be tricked again now? Hearing Meng Jueguang's words, Meng Tong suddenly felt that he was a bit stupid. He could only say weakly, then what should we do? If Lin Yi doesn't agree, then won't he stay in mining area number 7 and not be able to drive him away? It's easy to invite the devil in but hard to send him away. Meng Jueguang scratched his head helplessly. 2 days ago, when he was trying to lure Lin Yi to mining area number 7, he was full of expectations that he would be able to find high-quality ores in mining area number 10 and make a fortune. In the end, he did not expect that not only would he not find any good jade, but he had also wasted 2 days. Now, he did not know how to kick Lin Yi back. He had really lifted a rock and dropped it on his own feet. In fact, it was fine if he could not kick Lin Yi back to mining area number 10. As long as he let Meng Tong go back to mining area number 7, Meng Jueguang would not suffer any loss. It was nothing more than watching Lin Yi live comfortably in his heart. However, the problem now was that he had a very serious hidden worry. The most important reason why he was able to successfully exchange Lin Yi for mining area number 10 2 days ago was that Su Lingchong had nodded to young Master Su. Otherwise, no matter how good his relationship with Dai Wuchang was, Dai Wuchang would not dare to go against young Master Su's will. The reason why Su Lingchong had nodded back then was because he, Meng Jueguang, had solemnly promised Su Lingchong that he wouldn't let Su Lingchong off easily after finding out what was wrong with the 10th mine. As a result, not only did he not find out anything fishy about mining area number 10, but he was also stuck in mining area number 7 by Lin Yi. If this matter fell into young Master Su's ears, then Meng Jueguang would not be able to bear the consequences. Thinking of this, driving Lin Yi back to mining area number 10 was no longer a dispensable action to vent his anger, but a death mission that must be completed. Because this was not only a personal grudge of Meng Jueguang, but also related to young Master Su's face. Chapter 36:19. He couldn't think of a way himself, and as for Meng Tong, that brainless idiot, he naturally couldn't count on him. The two of them walked out of mine number 10 with frowns on their faces. Meng Jueguang was just about to find Dai Wuchang to exchange a contract for mine number 7 for Meng Tong when he unexpectedly saw 2 familiar figures at the door, Kong Mingming and Zhong Pingliang. These two weren't only disciples of Soaring Pavilion, but they were also Su Lingchong's direct subordinates. They could be considered to be in the limelight among all the newcomers. Especially Kong Ming Ming, under young Master Su's special care, he had almost locked onto the position of the newcomer deacon. According to Ming Jueguang's observation, this person was quite scheming. Recently, he had been running to Jade's spirit hall very frequently, presumably also thinking about the spirit jades in the mine. Ming Jueguang suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Right, these two were also Lin Yi's sworn enemies, and there was a deep hatred in the secular world. If he could ask them to help him deal with Lin Yi, they should be more than willing. Perhaps they knew Lin Yi better and might have some good ideas. Thinking of this, Meng Jueguang hurriedly stepped forward and greeted, "Junior Brother Kong, Junior Brother Zhong, I didn't expect to meet you two here. What a coincidence." "Yo, if it isn't Senior Brother Meng." Kong Ming Ming and Zhong Pingliang looked at each other and responded with a smile. Although the disciples of the Soaring Sky Pavilion naturally looked down on the people of the Clear Cloud Pavilion, Meng Jueguang was still the senior brother in charge of the Welcoming Pavilion, and his subordinate was also in charge of Lin Yi. Su Lingchong, the young master of the Su family, seemed to have some admiration for him, and so Kong Xiaoming wanted to make friends with him. As for Zhong Pingliang, he would follow whatever Kong Mingming did, determined not to fall behind. The few of them exchanged greetings, and Meng Jueguang immediately asked, "Junior brothers, are you preparing to go to the mines?" "Not bad. Newbies like us aren't as free as you, Senior Brother Meng. Other than digging for spirit jades, there are no other good ways," Kong Ming Ming replied with a smile. "Heh, Junior Brother Kong, your words are too modest. Not only are you two disciples of the Soaring Sky Pavilion, but you are also young Master Su's most valued subordinates. Even if you go down to the mines, it will definitely be the first mining area. Digging up 30 or 40 pieces of good jade a day is an easy thing to do. Even a senior brother like me is somewhat envious of you. If you still call yourself a little newbie, then it will be a bit unreasonable." Meng Jueguang's words were just a compliment, but Meng Tong, who was next to him, couldn't hide the envy in his eyes as he looked at the two of them. What did it mean to dig up 30 or 40 pieces of good jade a day? This meant that a day's worth of work was equivalent to 5 days of work for him. They could get a spirit jade for 3 to 4 days. It was really infuriating. Not at all. After noticing Meng Tong's envious gaze, Kong Ming looked humble, but he was actually quite proud of himself. It could be seen that it was the right decision to cling onto Su Lingchong's thigh when they first teleported to this island. Otherwise, if they were sent to a place like Blue Cloud Pavilion, working hard for a day and only getting 5 to 6 pieces of jade, that would be really miserable. Of course, if they were targeted like Lin Yi, it would be even more miserable. But if Kong Mingming knew that he, a key newbie in Mine 1, could only earn 1 piece of spirit jade after working hard for 3 to 4 days, and Lin Yi could steal at least 2 pieces of spirit jade any day, with almost no risk at all, would he be jealous to death? Of course, according to Kong Mingming's natural disposition of liking to take shortcuts. Although his current excellent environment was already enviable, he himself would not be satisfied with honestly digging for jade. Therefore, a few days ago, he dragged Su Lingchong around to build up his network so that he could find an opportunity to fill his pockets after building up his network. This was in line with his nature. It was just that Spirit Jade Hall supervision was strict. Even if he clung onto Su Lingchong, this thick thigh, it would not be easy for Kong Mingming to achieve this step. One must know that even Meng Jueguang, this senior with deep qualifications, did not dare to rashly lay hands on good jade with his current network. He could only wait for the opportunity to embezzle some scrap jade. Apart from being able to exchange these scrap jade for some meager remuneration, even if he managed to find a way to bring it out, it could at most be used to cheat others like how he cheated Linny 2 days ago. Apart from that, there was not much use for it. Senior Apprentice Brother Ming, 2 days ago you told young Master Su that you wanted to investigate the fishy matter of Lin Yi digging up good jade in the 10th dead mining area. I wonder if there's any progress? Kong Mingming turned around and asked. Although digging up 8 or 10 pieces of good jade a day was already pretty miserable in his eyes, if he could make Linny unable to dig up a single piece of good jade, wouldn't that be even more satisfying? Meng Jueguang was secretly delighted in his heart. He was just waiting for the other party to say this. Immediately, he let out a long sigh and said, "Sigh, don't mention it." Both junior apprentice brothers also know that I kicked this Lin Yi to the 10th dead mining area, which birds don't even shit on, in order to vent the anger of young Master Su and my two junior apprentice brothers. In the end, I didn't expect him to dig up good jade in 2 consecutive days. Isn't this going against our original intention of punishing him? Not to mention anything else, just based on the grudge between him and my two junior apprentice brothers, we can't let him go on like this. Although they knew that this guy was deliberately trying to make himself look good, Kong Mingming and Meng Jueguang still nodded. Then, they listened to Meng Jueguang continue. So I set up a trap and tricked him to come to the 7th mining area, wanting to investigate the fishy matter in the 10th mining area. In the end, I invited the exploration experts of Lingyu Hall to take a look and found out that there's no good jade in the 10th mining area at all. There's nothing fishy about it either. He was purely lucky 2 days ago. If we let him stay there any longer, no matter how lucky he is, he definitely won't be able to dig up any good jade. Isn't that just right? Just kick him back to the 10th mining area, right? Don't you think so, junior apprentice brother Zhong? Kong Mingming's eyes couldn't help but light up. He was holding back his strength to see Linny suffer. If he could make Linny unable to dig up any good jade for a few months, that would be perfect. Zhong Pingliang, who was standing at the side, nodded slightly but didn't say anything. He was Lin Yi's spy. At a time like this, he naturally couldn't speak carelessly. Otherwise, one word could help Lin Yi, but it could also make things worse. Sigh. I originally had the same idea as my two junior apprentice brothers. Meng Jueguang smiled bitterly. But the problem is, if we don't think of a way to make Lin Yi sign the contract himself, we can't do anything if he insists on staying in the 7th mining area and refuses to leave. Chapter 36:20. Meng Jueguang proudly replied, "That's because I found an excuse to give him 25 pieces of useless jade in exchange for the only small spiritual jade that still had spiritual qi in his possession." Useless jade? What does this guy need useless jade for? How could he trade a good jade full of energy for useless jade? It's not like you can eat it. Did a donkey kick him in the head? Kong Mingming couldn't help but wonder. Even Zhong Pingliang was a little stunned. The spiritual energy inside the Jade Wastelands was too thin. It was far from being comparable to the cultivation dwelling allocated to the new disciples in the welcoming pavilion. Even if it was a waste disciple from the clear cloud pavilion, they wouldn't be interested in the spiritual energy inside the Jade Wastelands. Meng Jueguang smiled proudly. Hehe, don't be surprised, brothers. When I gave him the spiritual jade, he didn't know that it was useless jade. He thought that the 25 pieces were good jade. One small spiritual jade for 25 good jades. This big pie fell from the sky and knocked him out. I tricked him into signing the contract on the spot. Even if he found out that it was useless jade, he couldn't go back on his word. I see. So Lin Yi was tricked by Senior Ming. Kong Xiaoming understood the situation and chuckled. He was happy to see Lin Yi being humiliated like this, but Zhong Pingliang didn't think so. Among everyone present, he was the first to know Lin Yi and understood him the best. As far as he was concerned, Boss Lin Yi's miraculous abilities had been proven time and time again in the common world. He wasn't the kind of guy who would be tricked easily. It was already good enough that he didn't trick others, but how could others trick him? He, Zhong Pingliang, was suffering from the pain of shooting himself in the foot. Even his kidneys were gone. As a result, being tricked into exchanging good jade for useless jade wasn't something that would happen to Lin Yi, unless he wanted the jade and was willing to be tricked. He didn't know what Lin Yi wanted the jade for, but he had a feeling that it would be of great use to his boss Lin Yi. Meng Jueguang and the others thought that they tricked boss Lin Yi, but they might have fallen into Lin Yi's trap. They laughed happily for a while. Kong Mingming continued, "Then how do we kick Lin Yi back to my number 10? Do you have any ideas, Senior Ming? We can't just let him roam around mine number 7 forever, can we? I'm also having a headache over this problem." Meng Tong just said that he would use another 25 pieces of jade to trick Lin Yi back. I told you that Lin Yi isn't an idiot. He wouldn't fall for it again. You two are smart people. What do you think? Meng Jueguang looked at Kong Mingming and Zhong Pingliang. Indeed, It's only been 2 days, and he wants to trick Linny again. Does he think Lin Yi is an idiot, or does he think he's an idiot? Kong Ming Ming sneered as he glanced at Meng Tong. The disdain in his eyes was self-evident. On the other hand, Meng Tong's face flushed red from his words. Zhong Pingliang suddenly interrupted. I actually think that Meng Tong's suggestion might work. Oh? Why do you say that, Junior Zhong? Meng Jueguang and Kong Ming Ming asked at the same time. Meng Tong, on the other hand, looked at Zhong Pingliang gratefully, thanking him for helping him out. Wow, this senior Zhong is so nice. I need to get closer to him in the future and discuss things with him. Zhong Pingliang was different from Meng Tong. Like Kong Ming Ming, he was recruited by Su Lingchong personally. He wasn't an idiot either. If the same words came out of Meng Tong's mouth, people would only laugh at him. But if it came out of Zhong Pingliang's mouth, Meng Jueguang and Kong Ming Ming would have to think about it carefully. What the two senior brothers said is true. With Lin Yi's shrewdness, he wouldn't fall for the same trick 2 days later, Zhong Pingliang analyzed. But that's on the premise that he'd already realized that he'd been tricked. What if he still hasn't realized that the 25 pieces of jade senior brother Meng gave him were useless? Is that possible? Meng Jueguang and Kong Ming Ming looked at each other. Zhong Pingliang's words made sense. If Lin Yi still hadn't realized that the spirit jade was useless, then he could do it again. There was a chance of success. Pingliang saw that the two were still hesitating, so he continued. According to what Ming's senior brother said, it's only been 2 days since Lin Yi took the 25 jade pieces, and he's been mining in the mines for the past 2 days, so he hasn't had much time to use the spirit jades. If he doesn't use them, then he wouldn't have realized that they're all useless jades. From what I see, it's very likely that he didn't notice them. But even if he's mining in the day, he'll still need the spirit jade when he goes back to train at night, right? Meng Jueguang thought that Zhong Pingliang's words made sense, but he was still confused. Zhong Pingliang shook his head. I don't dare to boast about others, but I dare say that I don't know Lin Yi as well as the other senior brothers. This guy looks normal on the outside, but he's actually very arrogant. He thinks that he's a genius that only appears once in 10,000 years, so he's used to playing tricks when he's in the common world. He's never trained as hard as we do, so I'm willing to bet that he hasn't been training seriously these 2 days, so he doesn't need the spirit jade. Kong Xiaoming nodded from the side. I agree with what Junior Zhong said. Senior brother Ming, you might not know this, but Lin Yi is actually an alchemist in the common world. His current strength is basically increased by elixirs. People like him who are used to elixirs wouldn't bother with daily training. I think it's very likely that he's trying to save up spirit jades to buy elixirs. As for training, someone like him who's addicted to pills probably doesn't even know how to use spirit jade to train, right? Ha ha ha. The others burst into laughter. Seeing Meng Jueguang's convinced expression, Zhong Pingliang was secretly happy. He was sure that Boss Lin Yi needed the useless jade, so he purposely led these people to give Lin Yi jade again. If it was only him, Meng Jueguang would still be a little skeptical, but he didn't think that even Kong Ming Ming would help him. Now, Meng Jueguang had no choice but to believe it. Chapter 36:21. You're right, Meng Jueguang recalled. It was indeed like this. He couldn't help but nod. Meng Shixiang and Meng Tong Shixiang should have seen Lin Yi these past 2 days, right? Did he get angry after he realized he was tricked? Pinliang continued to strike while the iron was hot. He was willing to bet that even if Boss Lin Yi realized that the 25 pieces were all useless jade, he wouldn't show it on his face. Meng Jueguang paused and recalled carefully with Meng Tong. They both said excitedly, yeah, I didn't see him yesterday, but I did see him the day before yesterday. It was just like what Brother Zhong, senior brother, said. The kid behaved normally, as if he didn't realize those were all useless jade. That's it. So we can follow Meng Tong Shixiang's suggestion and prepare a pile of useless jade and send it to him. Pinliang laughed. Meng Jueguang was about to nod, but then he hesitated and said, but what if he has already found out that it is a waste jade? After all, What we said was just speculation. That kid has always been good at acting. Maybe he's just swallowing his pride and acting normally these past 2 days? If that's the case, wouldn't it be a waste to give him the useless jade? This guy wasn't easy to fool. Pinliang curled his lips and thought about it. That's easy. Let Mengtong Shixiang find a chance to get information from him. Won't he know after a little testing? But then again, it's just a pile of useless jade. Even if it doesn't work, you won't lose much, Meng Shixiang. You're right, Brother Zhong. Meng Juiguang nodded. The other party was giving him advice. If he still didn't nod, it would be a little embarrassing. It made it seem like he couldn't afford the useless jade in front of Kong Mingming and Pinliang. He didn't want to lose face. And to be honest, Pinliang's suggestion sounded very reliable. It was worth a try. After the discussion, Meng Juiguang arranged for Meng Tong to find Lin Yi. Meng Tong was going back to mine number 7 anyway. It was on the way. When he arrived at mine number 7, Meng Tong saw Li Jingming working in the middle of the mine. He couldn't help but feel angry. Meng Juiguang had purposely left this mining spot for him. Now that he had wasted 2 days of effort in dead mine number 10, Li Jingming, this scheming brat, had taken advantage of him. Of course he was unhappy. Although, Meng Juiguang hinted to Li Jingming to put pressure on Lin Yi, but Meng Tong automatically ignored it. Besides, when he framed Lin Yi last time, Li Jingming slandered him for hiding spirit jade and even searched him. He was rebelling. Although he couldn't do anything because of Meng Juiguang, he still remembered it. Meng Tong was a very arrogant and selfish person. So as far as he was concerned, Li Jingming had ill intentions, and he had the intention to replace him. He felt that although Li Jingming followed Meng Juiguang, the best resources would still be given to Meng Tong first. The rest of the resources would go to him. If he could find a chance to replace Meng Tong, the benefits would be obvious. Just you wait, I'll deal with you. Meng Tong spat angrily. He then looked around for Lin Yi. After all, his current task was to find Lin Yi and get some words out of him. He was still clear about his priorities. When he found Lin Yi, Meng Tong's bad mood was immediately swept away. He couldn't help but gloat. Lin Yi's mine was located in the most remote corner. It was the kind that no one had ever paid attention to before. There were a few empty mines on the side. According to past experience, the jade production rate was better than Lin Yi's mine. However, Lin Yi didn't have any intention of moving out. In fact, if he wanted to move out, someone would immediately rush over to snatch his mine until he gave up. This was Meng Juiguang's order. Lin Yi could only stay in the worst mine in the entire mining area number 7 to mine. However, Lin Yi didn't care about this at all. He didn't need others to go through much trouble. He just settled down in the most remote and worst mine. He had the attitude of Liu Bianren, who was happy to live a poor life. In fact, even if others wanted him to come out, he himself didn't want to come out. In this most remote mine, he could completely avoid the sight of the guards. How great was that? Pretentious newbie. Are you busy? Meng Tong gloated for a while, and then walked towards Lin Yi. If it was someone else who came to the mining area and didn't work hard, they would definitely be severely punished by the guards. However, Meng Tong was specially taken care of by Meng Juiguang. Therefore, the guards turned a blind eye to this. If you have something to say it quickly. Don't disturb me. Lin Yi was about to put a piece of waste jade into the space of the jade pendant. Seeing Meng Tong walking over, he had to stop halfway. He was obviously driven to the worst mine, but he still had a temper. However, it was normal for him to have a temper. Who didn't have a temper here? Meng Tong couldn't help but curl his lips. He organized his words and said, "Nothing much. I just wanted to ask you. Cousin Gio gave you so many spiritual jades 2 days ago. Did you use them? Are you testing me to see if I found any waste jade or not?" Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. He pretended to be cautious and said, "No, they are still there." "Why? Do you want to go back on your word? Do you want to take them back from me?" "Let me tell you, I won't go back to mining area number 10. Don't expect me to return these spiritual jades to you." "Hey, why are you so excited? We don't want to take them back. We are just casually asking." Meng Tong made up his mind. After coming to a conclusion, he immediately ignored Lin Yi and turned to leave. Looking at this guy's rash back, Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. Meng Jueguang actually sent this guy with a screw loose to find excuses from him. He really didn't know whether to say that Meng Jueguang was careless or that he had a hole in his brain. This was all thanks to his cooperation. Otherwise, if it was someone else, just based on Meng Tong's rash words, even if they didn't have any suspicions before, they would have become suspicious now. However, why did Meng Jueguang send this guy to test me? Lin Yi fell into deep thought. After a while, he shook his head with a playful expression. Could it be that these two people found out that they couldn't dig up any good jade in mining area number 10? So, they are thinking of some way to kick me back? Lin Yi's guess was soon confirmed. When he returned to his cave residence after work, he saw Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong waiting for him. Chapter 36-22. Junior Brother Lin Yi, I plan to transfer you back to the number 10 mining area. Please sign this mining area contract. Meng Jueguang went straight to the point. Why should I? Lin Yi glanced at him, a smile that wasn't quite a smile on his face. I'm having a good time in the 7th mining area, and I can get good jade with no effort at all. Why would I go back to a dead mining area like that? Do I look sick to you, Senior Brother Meng? Or are you sick to your stomach? I knew you wouldn't want to, but it's okay. I will make you agree. Meng Jueguang signaled Meng Tong to put the bag of spiritual jades on the stone table and said, in 3 months, you can only earn 6 or 7 pieces of spiritual jades at most in the number 7 mining area. But if you agree to change mining areas, I can give you 10 pieces right now. What do you think? 10 pieces of spiritual jades? It's just to get me back to the number 10 mining area. Do you think it's worth it to pay such a high price, Senior Brother Meng? Lin Yi suddenly laughed, then pretended to be suspicious and said, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Senior Brother Meng, are you guys digging a hole for me to jump into? Junior Brother Lin Yi, you can't overestimate yourself. Do you think it's worth it to pay such a high price to dig a hole for you? Meng Jueguang sneered disdainfully and explained after a pause. To tell you the truth, young Master Su found out that I transferred you to the number 7 mining area. Young Master Su is very angry, so I can only think of a way to exchange you back. I have no other choice but to pay such a price. Now you have no more doubts, right? Haha, he obviously wants to use a few pieces of useless jade to trick me back to the dead mining area. This guy really knows how to make a good lie. However, although he clearly saw through the other party's little trick, Lin Yi was very willing to cooperate. Since the other party was in a hurry to give him spiritual jades, how could he refuse? Super good people like Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong were very rare in this world. Lin Yi was really happy to meet them as soon as he arrived at Heaven Island. Alright then, since Senior Meng has put it this way, it would be inappropriate for me to refuse. However, Senior Meng, don't you think that 10 pieces of spirit jades is a little too little? Lin Yi pretended to be in a difficult position and kept Meng Jueguang in suspense. 10 yuan is already a lot, Meng Jueguang said, pretending to be in deep thought. F***ck. You're raising the price again. When Meng Tong saw that Lin Yi had taken the bait, he was actually secretly pleased. As for wasting a few more pieces of waste jade, it was not a problem at all in his eyes. However, on the surface, he deliberately cooperated with Meng Jueguang. He pretended to be very dissatisfied and said, 10 pieces of spirit jades is already a lot. Far more than your mining reward, okay? Don't push your luck. I can't go any higher. This is already a sky-high price. These two guys are quite into it. Lin Yi laughed in his heart, but on the surface, he put on a straight face and pretended to be angry and said, Senior Meng, you have to speak with a conscience. You just asked me to change mine 2 days ago, and today you want me to change mine back. From the beginning to the end, it was you who tormented me, your junior, and I didn't even have a word of complaint. Since Senior Meng feels that you are at a disadvantage. All right then, I won't change mine anymore, okay? Seeing that Lin Yi wanted to leave, Meng Jueguang hurriedly stopped him and said, Junior Meng Lin Yi, don't be in such a hurry. I didn't say that it can't go higher than 10 pieces of spirit jades. right? That's what Ming Tong said. That's it. I'll give you 2 more pieces, 12 pieces of spirit jades. 12 pieces? Linny looked at Meng Jueguang, raised his eyebrows and said, Senior Ming, 2 days ago you asked me to change my number 10 to my number 7, and even gave me 25 pieces of spirit jades. Now you're kicking me from my number 7 back to my number 10. Don't you think this price is a little too shabby? How can that be the same? The 25 pieces of spirit jades from before were to exchange for your little spirit jade, not to let you change mine. Meng Jueguang paused for a moment and seemed to have made a big decision, but considering that Junior Meng Lin Yi is a newcomer, it's really not easy for you to be assigned to my number 10. How about this? I'll take a step back and give you 15 pieces of spirit jades. 30 pieces. If you're short even 1 piece, don't come looking for me again. Linny said resolutely. If this was a normal transaction, the other party would have fallen out with him long ago. However, he knew what Meng Jueguang was thinking. In order to get him to take the bait, Meng Jueguang would definitely not be stingy with these 10 pieces of useless spirit jades. At this time, if he didn't seize the opportunity to extort more spirit jades, it would be the end of the world. As expected, after Meng Jueguang's expression turned ugly for a while, he finally gritted his teeth and agreed. All right, in order to appease young Master Su's anger, I'll accept this loss. 25 pieces, that's the limit I can bear. Sign the contract for the mine. All right. Linny smiled and nodded. Without any delay, he signed the contract, counted the number of spirit jades, and turned to leave. In fact, although Linny knew that it was useless spirit jades, he knew when to stop. One had to know that he was taking good spirit jades. If he insisted on a high amount, it would seem that the spirit jades were not valuable. After waiting for Linny to leave, Meng Jueguang, who was deliberately suppressing his anger, changed his expression and sneered. This kid is really good at bargaining. I reckon that he used to go to the market to buy vegetables in the secular world. His ability to haggle is top-notch. It's a pity that he's smart, but he doesn't have any great wisdom to be able to fall into the same trap twice in a row. With this kind of IQ, he can still come to our Heaven Stage Island. He's really a rare genius. He, who asked him to meet our 9th cousin. In my opinion, it wouldn't be strange for him to fall into this trap a few more times. This kid can't do anything. He only has a bit of luck. Previously, he was actually able to dig out good spirit jades in the 10th dead mine. What the hell? But this time, after exchanging, I want to see if he can still dig out good spirit jades. Ming Tong said with a face full of expectation. That goes without saying. Just wait for a good show tomorrow. Meng Jueguang said with a face full of ridicule. Previously, the exploration experts had already sentenced the 10th mine to death. He was sure that even if Lin Yi's luck was heaven-defying, he wouldn't be able to dig out any good spirit jades when he returned to the 10th mine. Therefore, he couldn't wait to see Lin Yi's depressed and unlucky look. The next day, as soon as the handover bell rang, Meng Jueguang and Ming Tong excitedly gathered the newcomers of the Blue Cloud Pavilion and sat around the handover site to watch the show. The newcomers looked at each other. They didn't know much about what happened in the past few days, but with the intentional spread of information by Ming Tong and Li Jingming, they more or less knew the gist of it. Chapter 36-23. However, what the 3rd Pavilion Master could not do was easily accomplished by Meng Jueguang, the eldest senior brother in charge. With just a few words, he easily transferred Lin Yi to the coveted 7th mine. However, Lin Yi was really a good-for-nothing. Relying on the 3rd Pavilion Master's support, not only did he not repay senior brother Meng's kindness, but he also badmouthed senior brother Meng after arriving at the 7th mine. In less than 2 days, he had angered everyone. Meng Shiro, in a fit of rage, he'd kicked Lin Yi back to the 10th mine, and the reason he'd called everyone here was to witness Lin Yi's first day back in the mines. They'd like to see if this arrogant idiot could still be as lucky as he was before. The newcomers could reach the heaven stage and above, so they were naturally all smart people. Regardless of the credibility of the rumor, they at least knew that Lin Yi's exchange of minds in the past 2 days was true, and that it was indeed Meng Jueguang who was behind the scenes. This was enough for them to draw a very important conclusion. Meng Jueguang, the eldest senior brother in charge, had the ability to summon clouds and rain with a flip of his hand. Those who obeyed him would prosper, while those who defied him might not die, but they would definitely end up in a miserable state. Therefore, even if there were newcomers who were worried about being slapped in the face by Lin Yi, they still followed Meng Jueguang closely. Since senior brother Meng had asked them to watch Lin Yi, they would obediently watch. Anyway, they would not be the unlucky ones. After a while, under everyone's expectations, Lin Yi's figure finally appeared on the long 10th mine. Lin Yi was not surprised by the crowd's presence. He calmly weighed the jade as usual. Lin Yi, 16 pieces of waste jade, 20 pieces of junk jade. When the quality inspection results were announced, Meng Jueguang and the others could not help but grin mockingly. The crowd was in an uproar. Even the other newcomers looked at Lin Yi with schadenfreude. Infuriate people, laugh at people without. This was the innate bad nature of these people. Lin Yi looked at the crowd calmly. He didn't steal any hidden spiritual jade today, so he didn't charge the waste jade he dug up. After all, Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong had been busy in the number 10 mining area for 2 days, but they didn't find anything. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was able to dig up good jade as soon as he went back. This was a little strange. Therefore, in order to avoid suspicion, he decided to pretend for 2 days first. Moreover, he had other motives for doing so. Pretentious newbie, aren't you the legendary son of luck? Why isn't he lucky this time? Meng Tong hurriedly jumped out to mock him. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. He pretended to be surprised and said, "Oh, I understand. Don't tell me you didn't step on dog poop when you went out today? That's why you're so unlucky. How pitiful." Wahahaha. When the group of rookies heard this, they could not help but laugh even more wantonly. Meng Tong didn't seem like a smart person usually, but when his mouth started mocking people, he was quite good at it. In the end, Lin Yi did not fly into a rage out of humiliation like everyone imagined. Instead, he looked calmly at Meng Tong and said thoughtfully, "What you said reminds me. On the first day, I kicked you in the face, so my luck has been pretty good ever since. Could this be the dog poop luck you mentioned?" Huh? Meng Tong was immediately stunned as he said in confusion, "What the hell are you saying? What has kicking my face got to do with dog poop luck?" At this moment, some of the rookies reacted. Wasn't this equivalent to saying that Meng Tong's face was dog poop? However, they did not dare to laugh even though they wanted to. They were hindered by Meng Jueguang's tyranny. They could only forcefully hold back their laughter as their entire bodies twitched on the spot. Meng Jueguang stared at the crowd with a livid expression before cursing with a black face. "He is indirectly calling you dog poop. You can't even tell from this. What a fool." Heh. Senior brother Meng is wise. You hit the nail on the head. Brother Meng Tong, why don't you find a chance to let me kick you again? I still want to have a few more rounds of dog poop luck. Lin Yi looked sincerely at Meng Tong. Holy H*T. You are the F*** King Dog Poop. You bastard, I'll fight it out with you. Meng Tong finally understood. Looking at those rookies who were covering their mouths and holding back their laughter, his face flushed red instantly. He rushed over in exasperation and was about to attack. Lin Yi looked at him quietly as he silently calculated in his heart. When the other party attacked him, he would immediately retaliate. This time, he would not let the other party have it as easy as last time. Even if he could not kill him directly, he would at least make him bedridden for a month, so that he would not continue to come to him and cause trouble in the future. But at the same time, Lin Yi also noticed that many guards around had already noticed the situation over here. Each of their eyes instantly revealed a frightening, murderous aura, as if they would pounce over at the next moment. Private fights were strictly prohibited in Spirit Jade Hall. Those who violated it would die. This was the #1 dead rule in Spirit Jade Hall. These guards were at least experts in the early stage of Foundation establishment. Any one of them could instantly behead Meng Tong. And looking at their posture, if Meng Tong pounced over again, these guards would really kill him. Meng Jueguang's heart suddenly thumped when he saw this. Although his connections in Spirit Jade Hall were not bad, It was limited to the stewards in charge of various affairs. As for these guards, he did not have any relationship with them. It was not that he did not want to make friends with them, but he did not dare to. Because according to the rules of Spirit Jade Hall, all guards were strictly prohibited from contact with other people. Even these stewards in Spirit Jade Hall were not allowed. Once found out, it would be regarded as corruption and dereliction of duty. This was a serious crime that could cripple one's cultivation. So if these guards really made a move, he was afraid that he would not even have the chance to exonerate Meng Tong. Seeing this, he could only rush to stop Meng Tong before he started a private fight. Disgraceful thing. Still not going to scram to the side for me, Meng Jueguang angrily reprimanded. It was obviously a great opportunity to see Lin Yi make a fool of himself, but in the end, it was tormented by this brainless fool, and instead scared himself into a cold sweat. He really could not accomplish anything but was good at spoiling things. Looking at the speed of Meng Jueguang's movement just now, Lin Yi's eyelids could not help but twitch. It seemed that this steward's senior brother's strength was indeed not weak. At least his cultivation was at the peak of the early stage of foundation establishment. Compared to the bitter senior brother, he was a notch stronger. Chapter 36-24. Senior Brother Meng, when you asked me to agree to change the mine yesterday, your tone was not like this. You changed your face too quickly, didn't you? Lin Yi pretended to be depressed and said, But I really have something to ask of you, Senior Brother Meng. This kid really wanted to ask of him? Meng Jueguang's heart was delighted, and he suddenly felt a sense of satisfaction. If it was any other newcomer who came to ask him, he might not feel any satisfaction. After all, this was a matter of course. But this person was Lin Yi, who had always been rebellious and refused to submit to him. This feeling was very different. The most satisfying thing in the world was to admire the face of the enemy when he was begging for mercy. Tell me, what do you want from me? Meng Jueguang's anger was suddenly swept away, and he deliberately put on airs. I want to take a day off tomorrow. I hope Senior Brother Meng can approve it, Lin Yi said. He and the other newcomers, although they had now signed the Spirit Jade Hall contract to mine here, and the stipulation was that they could not be absent for 3 months without reason. But before they became the miners of Spirit Jade Hall, their primary role was to welcome the newcomers of the new pavilion. Therefore, just like when the mining area was allocated, Meng Jueguang as the big senior brother could intervene in the management of the newcomers. As long as Meng Jueguang nodded his head, asking for a day or two off was a matter of a word. So this guy wanted to ask for leave. Meng Jueguang was enlightened, and immediately curled his lips and said, What's the reason? Why should I approve your request for leave? Senior Brother Meng, as you can see, I worked hard all day but couldn't dig out any good jade. My chest is a little tight, so I think I need to rest. Lin Yi deliberately pretended to be very depressed. Chest tightness? Looking at your expression, I thought you didn't take it to heart. It turns out that you also have times when your chest feels tight? Meng Jueguang was instantly happy. Even Meng Tong, who was angry out of humiliation, was beaming with joy. From the first day they met Lin Yi, no matter how they tried to deal with him, Lin Yi always maintained a calm expression. Every time they saw this expression on his face, Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong's mood was as bad as eating tea, especially when their plan failed and they were tricked. But now, Lin Yi actually took the initiative to admit that he was depressed. This was simply an unprecedented victory. It was good to be depressed. I'll make you depressed until you die. Meng Jueguang was suddenly in a good mood. He laughed and patted Lin Yi's shoulder, saying, Originally, I couldn't approve this leave for you. After all, it will damage the image of our Blue Cloud Pavilion if people hear that you flinch when you encounter a little setback. But since you're so depressed, I'll be magnanimous and grant you a day off. If you really can't, it's okay to take a few more days. Anyway, you won't be able to dig a fart even if you come. Don't dig for a few days and die of depression. Then you'll be the first newcomer to die of depression in the history of the Heaven Stage North Island. Thank you, Senior Brother Meng. Lin Yi didn't care about the sarcasm in these words at all. He didn't look at the crowd anymore and turned to leave. Hee hee, ninth cousin. Look at how ugly this kid's smile is. It's like crying. Wahahaha. Meng Tong mocked unscrupulously behind him. Lin Yi's expression was actually no different from before, but at this moment, in the eyes of Meng Tong, it was as ugly as it could be. Previously, when he looked at this expression, he always felt that the other party was showing off. He even wanted to rush over and kick his face. But now, the more he looked at it, the more pleasing it was to his eyes. It made him feel happy. Meng Jueguang also smiled sarcastically. This is called profound skill, understand? No matter how depressed you are, you must pretend to be calm and smile. Otherwise, how can you live up to the title of pretentious newcomer? The newcomers on the side suddenly burst into laughter. Lin Yi was an extremely strong troublemaker from the first day. He was recognized to be above the group of ordinary newcomers. To be able to enjoy such a scene of him being defeated, this mood had to be described with one word: cool. Who asked you to show off? You deserve to be struck by lightning. Not to mention how happy this group of people were. Lin Yi didn't care about them at all. As for the so-called depressed mood, it was purely for them to see. The nature of it was no different from playing a monkey. One must know that Meng Jueguang, this super good person, had given him a total of 50 spiritual jades twice. How could he be depressed? The reason why he applied for leave from Meng Jueguang this time was naturally not because he wanted to slack off for a day, but because he wanted to make use of this opportunity to make a trip to the city square. After all, he had more than enough spiritual jades on hand, and he wanted to buy the 5 medicinal herbs required to refine the heavenly path golden pill first. If he delayed too long, the 5 medicinal herbs would be sold out, and that would be an awkward situation. Although the supply of the 5 medicinal herbs seemed to be quite large, it was better to be safe than sorry. The next morning, Lin Yi put on the 1,000-thread mask and went straight to the market. Due to Meng Jueguang's contribution, coupled with the spiritual jades that he had stolen from the mines these days, Lin Yi had already accumulated about 60 spiritual jades. Although this kind of wealth couldn't be said to be extravagant, it was definitely considered a big tycoon among the newcomers. And in a place like the market, when one's wallet was full, one would naturally have more confidence. After spending 8 spiritual jades to buy the 5 medicinal herbs that he had his eyes on, Lin Yi didn't immediately turn back. Instead, he planned to casually walk around the market. Since he was already resting today, there was plenty of time, so Lin Yi was in no hurry to return. Although he had walked around twice the last time he came, he didn't have many spiritual jades on hand. Many things were only seen from afar, and he didn't ask too much. But this time was different. He had more than 50 spiritual jades on hand, which was enough to buy a lot of things. Walking around the outer street and the middle street, although he saw a lot of interesting things, there were only a few that really caught Lin Yi's eye. In this kind of cultivator market, no matter what it was, it could generally be classified into the following 2 categories: either to assist in cultivation or to assist in combat. For Lin Yi, he had the space of the jade pendant, and he could refine his own pills. Therefore, these cultivation aids in the market basically didn't catch his eye. Looking at the entire outer street and the middle street, even the most valuable and effective cultivation aids were far less effective than Lin Yi's own space of the jade pendant, so there was naturally no need to buy them. Chapter 36-25. Today is the Murloc's birthday. School bell, 5 chapters exploded, and also pulled down the monthly votes for the new book, Ultimate Young Master Cultivator. Recently, everyone has been saying that the mining story is a bit long. The Murloc will shorten this part of the plot. Although it will waste a part of the stock manuscript, it doesn't matter. The Murloc can directly write the later trials and other interesting plots. The following plots are written by the Murloc every day, but he will not reduce the number of chapters. He will try to write a part of the manuscript in advance every morning and update it the next night. He will try not to make everyone wait because the update time is not fixed. Of course, after strolling through the entire outer street and middle street, there were still a few items that could catch Lin Yi's eye. However, The prices of these items were not low. They often cost dozens or even hundreds of spirit jades. For Lin Yi, although these things were a little useful, they were not particularly critical and important. They belonged to the category of buying or not buying. If Lin Yi had a huge sum of thousands of spirit jades, he might buy them. But now, he would take a look first. After strolling through the outer street and middle street, Lin Yi originally planned to go back, but the situation in front of him made him stop unconsciously. That was the entrance to the inner street. Usually, idlers were not allowed to enter. Only the top-ranked inner disciples of the three pavilions were qualified to enter. The last time he came, it was deserted and looked extremely mysterious. But today, the flow of people was bustling inside. What surprised Lin Yi was that many of them were only masters in the early stage of foundation establishment, and the guards responsible for maintaining order did not stop them like last time. What is this situation? Lin Yi was stunned for a moment before he finally found a special sign that was different from the past at the entrance to the inner street. Inner Street Open Day. There was also a line of small words below. Masters above the early stage of foundation establishment can enter. After all, when he was in the secular world, he had been exposed to various commercial means. After Lin Yi stopped and thought for a moment, he quickly figured out the reason. The inner street was the most mysterious and highest street in the market square. The reason why there was a threshold for entry was that the inner street was the most mysterious street in the market square. The main purpose was to highlight their noble status and attract the most elite inner sect disciples of the three great pavilions. After all, this group of people had large amounts of spiritual jades on hand and belonged to the main group of high-end consumers. After the entry threshold was set in the inner street, others could not enter, but only they could. This in itself was a symbol of noble status. When this group of people's sense of superiority was satisfied, they were naturally more willing to come to the inner street to spend. In fact, the items that could be stored in the inner street had to be of a much higher quality than those in the outer street and middle street. Naturally, the price would be much more expensive. Those who had not reached the corresponding level would not be able to afford it. Thus, rather than wasting time with these low-level cultivators in the outer and middle streets, it would be better to gather them in the inner streets and create a threshold effect, specifically serving the most elite inner sect disciples of the three great pavilions. Therefore, from a purely commercial point of view, the inner street was equivalent to a super VIP in the market. Its existence was very reasonable and effective. However, any business method would have its drawbacks, and the existence of the inner streets was no exception. While the threshold effect attracted the elite disciples of the three great pavilions, the drawbacks of the inner streets were also extremely obvious. That was, its source of customers was naturally very small. There were only so many elite disciples of the three great pavilions, which meant that the market of the inner streets was naturally limited. This was obviously not a good thing for a commercial organization that strived to develop. After all, although 99% of the low-level cultivators in the outer and middle streets could not afford the items in the inner streets, there were always some exceptional potential customers. However, there were always some exceptional potential customers, such as those second-generation cultivators who were not very strong but had a large number of spiritual jades like the elite disciples of the three great pavilions. Therefore, the inner streets were open to the public. The most mysterious inner street of the market square was chosen one day a month to be open to ordinary cultivators who did not meet the threshold. This way, it could attract more potential customers and at the same time, it would not arouse the resentment of the elite disciples of the three great pavilions. In fact, the opening day of the inner streets every month would let more low-level cultivators truly understand the privileges they had and become even more envious of them. Therefore, the existence of the inner streets would not make the elite disciples of the three great pavilions feel that they were degraded. Instead, it would satisfy their sense of superiority, killing two birds with one stone. Sure enough, there was no time like the present. With such a rare opportunity to see the true face of the inner streets, Lin Yi naturally would not let it go for nothing. Anyway, he had nothing to do. Maybe he could encounter some treasures he liked in the inner streets, or he could directly buy the last heart-devouring exquisite grass needed to refine the heavenly golden pill in the inner streets. this was not impossible. Releasing the aura of an early-stage foundation establishment expert, the inner street guards only glanced at Lin Yi and happily let him pass. Following the flow of people into the inner streets, Lin Yi only took a look around and found that the inner streets were indeed very different from the outer streets and the middle streets. This could be clearly distinguished from the layout of the street and the structure of the shops. Simply put, the shops on the outer streets did not have a fixed layout at all. In fact, they were purely stalls. Although the middle streets were better, the nature was basically not much different from the farmers' markets in the secular world. However, the inner streets were very particular. At a glance, there were nearly 20 shops, each with its own independent pavilion. The layout was elegant and grand. At a glance, one could tell that it was a high-end place. According to the usual situation of the inner streets, the flow of customers was actually not large. If a shop could have 3 or 4 people enter at the same time, it would be considered a prosperous business. However, today's inner streets were obviously not in this category. Not to mention 3 or 4, based on this situation, perhaps even 30 or 40 people would not be able to stop them. Fortunately, these shops were big enough. Even with so many people pouring in, it didn't seem too crowded. Moreover, there were trained disciples in charge of receiving them. Thus, although the scene looked lively, it was still orderly and didn't cause any trouble. With great interest, Lin Yi followed the flow of people and looked carefully at each shop. As he expected, the prices of the items in the inner streets were far higher than those in the outer and middle streets. In the outside world, an item worth a few dozen spirit jades was already considered a high price. As for an item worth more than 100 spirit jades, it was even rarer. However, in this inner street, any random item would start from a few dozen spirit jades. Lin Yi followed the flow of people and looked at several shops. He almost did not see an item priced at less than 50 spirit jades. Instead, items priced at hundreds or even hundreds of spirit jades could be found everywhere. Sure enough, only after entering the inner street did one realize how poor one was. Originally, Lin Yi thought that although the amount of spirit jades he had on hand was not much, it was absolutely not a small amount. But now that he looked around, his mood suddenly became the same as the time when he carried a small piece of spirit jades to stroll around the outer and middle streets. He was embarrassed. Lin Yi had originally planned to buy something, but now he had no choice but to dispel this idea. This trip would be better for him to take a look and just treat it as an eye-opener. After all, even if he spent all the spirit jades he had on hand, he would not be able to buy anything decent. Chapter 36:26. The bigger the store, the better the items. Lin Yi had no reason to miss such a rare store, so he followed the flow of people and walked in. After entering the shop, Lin Yi quickly noticed the difference between this Hong Merchant Association and the other shops in the inner street. The decorations were more majestic, but that wasn't the main point. The main point was that the people who came here were wearing the symbol of the elite disciples of the 3 pavilions. The number of people who came here was far more than the other shops. In other words, even if today was not the opening day of the inner street, the Hong Merchant Association's business would be much more popular than the other stores. It was obvious that it had something special. North Sea Dragon Fish Bile, price 588 spirit jades. Mysterious Water Drop, price 649 spirit jades. Earth Snake Skin, price 320 spirit jades. After scanning through a row of display cabinets, Lin Yi's horizons were already widened. These were all things that Lin Yi had never heard of in the secular world. Although there was no specific introduction to these items, just from the appearance, it was obvious that they were not ordinary items. Moreover, Lin Yi found that in this Hong Merchant Association, there was not a single item priced below 100 spirit jades. Not to mention the outer street and the middle street, even the other stores in the inner street paled in comparison. They were almost not on the same level. No wonder it could attract so many elite disciples of the 3 pavilions. The Hong Merchant Association store was divided into 3 floors, arranged in a pyramid shape. The higher the floor, the smaller the space, and the number of items on display decreased. Of course, The price of each item on display increased by a lot. Some items were already priced at thousands of spirit jades. It was common sense that the items on the second floor were always better than those on the first floor. He went up to the second floor and took a quick look around. He did not intend to stay for too long. After all, due to his lack of money, it would be a waste of time to look at more items. As for the third floor, Lin Yi originally wanted to go up and broaden his horizons. However, he was stopped by the people from the Hong Merchant Association. The third floor was the Hong Merchant Association's VIP area. Only VIPs who had spent more than 1,000 spirit jades were qualified to enter. The inner street was already a VIP place in the market, and the Hong Merchant Association was one of the best stores in the inner street. Wouldn't the restricted third floor be a fighter jet among VIPs? Lin Yi secretly speculated that people who could enter here. He was already a big shot who could be ranked in the entire North Island of Heaven Stage Island. Although he was very curious about the items on the third floor, since they had set such a rule, Lin Yi could only suppress his curiosity for the time being and turn to go downstairs. However, at this moment, his heart suddenly palpitated, as if he had missed something important. Lin Yi wasn't sure what was going on when the ghost's voice sounded in his head. "Don't leave yet. Go take a look at the corner of the right shelf." Although it had been living in the jade space for some time, it had rarely taken the initiative to speak, unless it was something very important. Could it be that he had discovered some great treasure? With doubts in his heart, Lin Yi followed the ghost thing's instructions and quietly walked to the corner of the display. Because there were no eye-catching items, there were obviously fewer people here than in other places. At this moment, there was only one person standing next to Lin Yi. Judging by his attire, he should be an inner sect disciple of the Soaring Sky Pavilion. "Senior Ghost, you mean here?" Lin Yi communicated with the ghost thing through his consciousness. "Yes, this star ink stone is good stuff. Think of a way to get it," the ghost thing said. "Star ink stone?" Lin Yi looked around. There were only 2 or 3 items on display. Soon, he found what the ghost thing was talking about, star ink stone. However, there was no label on the star ink stone, only a price. It was placed in the corner of the display. It was shaped like a black stone the size of a fist. From the outside, it looked completely unremarkable, but its price was quite shocking, 1,000 spirit jades. Compared to the other expensive items, this star inkstone with a price of 1,000 spirit jades was not only unremarkable, it also didn't seem to have any use for it. In the eyes of others, it was simply a scam. As a result, no one stopped by. But Lin Yi knew that this star inkstone was not simple, because in the instant that he saw it, he once again felt the same throbbing in his heart. It was as if he had a telepathic connection, and this seemingly ordinary stone was constantly attracting him. Could it be that this was some sort of treasure that had been overlooked by others? Lin Yi didn't quite understand. He asked the ghost thing, "Senior Ghost, what use does this star inkstone have?" "There's no point in telling you right now. Think of a way to get it first." After saying this, the ghost thing no longer paid any attention to Lin Yi. Only Lin Yi was left staring at the pitch-black stone in front of him, completely baffled. Lin Yi rolled his eyes, somewhat speechless. Why didn't it say what use it had? It just randomly asked me to get my hands on this stone. 1,000 spirit jades. How could it be so easy to get? Thankfully, he had a cheating artifact like the space in the jade pendant. If it were anyone else, they would have been so scared that their legs would have turned to jelly upon hearing this price. But grumbling was just grumbling. Lin Yi also knew that if he missed out on this star inkstone, he would definitely regret it in the future. Even if he didn't mention the ghost thing, just based on that strange telepathic connection just now, he couldn't let it go so easily. Lin Yi silently observed the star inkstone. At the same time, he discovered that for some reason, the inner court disciple of the Soaring Sky Pavilion also seemed to be very interested in this star inkstone. His burning gaze seemed to want to buy it on the spot, but his expression was conflicted. It seemed that he didn't have that many spirit jades on hand. 1,000 spirit jades. Even for an inner court disciple of the 3 great pavilions, it was already a huge sum of money. It was impossible for an ordinary disciple to have so many spirit jades. Only a young master with a deep background like Su Lingchong, or a high-ranking steward who held great power within the three great pavilions, could possibly take out such a sum. Linny couldn't help but secretly let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the star inkstone's price was high enough. Otherwise, this person would have bought it first. Then he really wouldn't know what to do. But even if this person couldn't gather so many spirit jades in a short time, he didn't look like an ordinary disciple. At the very least, he gave off a feeling that he was much stronger than someone like Meng Jueguang, who knew when he would be able to gather 1,000 spirit jades. If he wanted to obtain the star inkstone, he had to be ahead of the other party. Thus, at this moment, Lin Yi still felt a sense of urgency. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.